Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth, Midgard. We're back again for another open forum discussion meeting. We'll begin or open up the discussion with a case between the United States of America. Notice that it says United States versus Burton at the top, but down here on the bottom left, you'll see United States of America.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, the case and difference.
What was that?
Also, the case and difference. The United States is capitalized, while the United States of America is all caps.
Exactly. United States of America is all capitalized. But that in and of itself is fraud. Why is it fraud? Well, there is no United States of America. So the United States of America has no laws and it has no governing body. So if that's the case, what laws could Rodney Burton have broken? There ain't no laws. So how are you prosecuting someone on a state name that doesn't exist and doesn't have any laws? But you see, that's a trick bag. United States of America. United States of America. Well, which one is it? Well, it's really the United States as of 1871 with the Act of Congress when they buried the United States of America. But they're still using the name, even domestically, in all caps, in all caps even. And not because it's now a corporation, it's a shell company, right? That has no assets or a governing body or a population. They're just in a shallow grave. But they utilize the name internationally. Domestically, they use the name United States. So they got a lot of tricks that they're working with. However, those tricks have put them in a trick bag. As we continue checking boxes, because all it's doing is making things easier for us to force decolonization because they're not a state. That's just the bottom line. That's really the end result is that they're not a state. They're an international organization as the United States Municipal Corporation, whereas our more states are de jure actual states, organic states. So they would never have an upper hand on us just based on that fact. You don't even have to add to the fact that they're on our land. So we're the ones who are at home. You are a foreigner to this land. So that's another point that shows and proves that they have no authority other than what we allow them to have based on acquiescence. You see? So it's the number 20-5082 United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. United States versus Burton. It was decided April 6, 2021. So it's the United States. And so it says on the top, United States versus Burton. Down here, it says United States of America. That's the plaintiff versus Rodney LaVon Burton as the defendant. Mary Beth Briscoe, circuit judge. She was the presiding judge. Order and judgment before McHugh, Kelly, and Briscoe, circuit judges. So these are the judges. So let's get into the reading. After examining the briefs and appellate record, this panel has determined unanimously that oral argument would not materially assist in the determination of this appeal. Oral arguments, meaning that he did not have any documents to back up his claim, his verbal claim. C, Fed, R, A, App, P, 34A2, case law. Skip past the case law. The case is therefore ordered, submitted without oral argument. This order and judgment is not binding precedent, except under the doctrines of law of the case, res judicata, and collateral estoppel. It may be cited, however, for its persuasive value consistent with this case law. So, appellant defendant Rodney LaVon Burton appeals his one-count conviction for being a felon in possession of a firearm in violation of 18 U.S.A. Code, subsection 922 G1 and 924 A2. Burton argues that because he is a free sovereign Moor, he is eternally in the jurisdiction of his ancient Moabite forebears. Truth, very true, but how can you prove it with your emanating documents? That's the problem. We'll show and prove that in a second. He's eternally in the jurisdiction of his ancient Moabite forebears, and the case against him should accordingly be dismissed. When Burton raised this issue before the district court construed Burton's arguments as a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction and denied the motion. ROA Volume 1 at 38-40 or 38 to 40. Burton was found guilty after a jury trial. He has timely appealed, exercising jurisdiction under 28 U.S.C. subsection 1291. We affirm Burton's conviction. All right. This case began in May 2019 when Tulsa police officers responded to a report of a man pointing a firearm at passing cars. RA Volume 3 at 25. Officers arrived at the scene and found Burton, who continually repeated a statement regarding his Moorish beliefs, during which he reported that his name was Rodney Burton Bay. Right? So I don't know what business he's got out there just pointing a firearm at passing cars. Is that true? Or are those trumped up charges? We don't know. But we do know that he has been trying to stand on his square as a Moorish American or a Moor without the proper documentations to back up his claim. Burton was carrying a bag, and officers could see the stock of a revolver protruding from the bag. After arresting Burton, officers searched the bag and recovered a Colt .357 Magnum revolver loaded with 6 rounds of ammunition. At the time of his arrest, Burton had previous convictions for marijuana possession and being a felon in possession of a firearm. So he had other priors, right, in which those prior convictions is what part of what they're using to make the case that he is Burton and not Burton Bay. So in the past, you were Burton when you came through these courts, and now you're still Burton unless you can show and prove otherwise, which he hasn't been able to. Why? Because everything is based on his oral argument. Just an oral argument, not documents to back up his claims. A federal grand jury returned a 1-count indictment charging Burton with being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. Before Burton's trial, the district court ordered a competency hearing and a psychiatric evaluation. Burton was found competent to stand trial. Burton proceeded pro se after refusing appointment of counsel. However, a federal public defender served as his standby counsel throughout trial. Burton filed several affidavits with the district court arguing in part that he was not a citizen of the United States and that the court therefore lacked jurisdiction over him. And try again, Brother Burton. Burton also alleged that he was not the same person named in the indictment and was instead a third-party intervener. The district court construed these affidavits as motions to dismiss, to transfer for lack of venue, and to compel production of information. The court denied the motions. Burton's case proceeded to trial, and a jury subsequently found him guilty. Burton was sentenced to a term of imprisonment of 30 months and a 3-year term of supervised release. After sentencing, Burton filed a motion for reconsideration, which the district court denied. After filing this appeal, he granted Burton's motion seeking permission to appear pro se and to allow his public defender to withdraw. In his appeal, Burton seeks dismissal of this case, and renews several arguments that he made before the district court, namely that he is a free sovereign. How is he a free sovereign if he's not existing under the jurisdiction of a sovereign state? See, this is the reason why they keep calling us sovereign citizens, because our position is patently frivolous. Okay, so he says, free sovereign who is eternally in the jurisdiction of his ancient Moabite forebears. Burton further asserts that he is not the Rodney Burton referenced in the indictment, and that Rodney Burton is a paper construct. True, but where's the fact? Where's the documents to show and prove? Burton also asserts that the district court erred because it used the past of the paper construct's prior convictions. You see, you know, it is what it is, good brother. They use the past because that's the name that they adjudicated on you, adjudicated you on. You're a former Moroccan well, I wouldn't say former Moroccan subject name because he's still a Moroccan subject. Your current Moroccan subject name is what they're using, which is your nom de guerre, your straw man, your all caps, your whatever you want to call it. Like the district court, we construe these arguments as a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. We review a district court's denial of a motion to dismiss on jurisdictional grounds under a de novo standard of review. De novo meaning of new. This is a United States versus Tolliver case law. We first address Burton's arguments that the district court lacked jurisdiction over him because he is a more American national. More American national. This is what he's claiming. You see, that right there is just patently frivolous in and of itself. You're not an American. You might be a more national. Now he's saying more American because he wants to get away from the ish term. So some Moors would say, well, I'm a Moorish American. The other one would say, well, I don't deal with the ish thing. So I'm a more American or an American more. All of it is messed up. And there's nothing wrong with ish. I've already proven that in the Webster's dictionary, there's 4 definitions for ish, but the number 1 definition for ish was that it denotes nationality, i.e., Polish, British, etc. Moors are just all messed up in the head, man, I swear. Burton was charged with violating federal criminal law while in the United States. While in the United States, right? I think they missed the term jurisdiction after that. The district court's criminal jurisdiction is based on 18 U.S.A. Subsection 3231, which provides that federal district courts of the United States shall have original jurisdiction exclusive of the courts of the United States of all offenses against the laws of the United States. Further, the laws of the United States apply to all persons within its borders. All right. BS. Not because you don't even have any borders. So that's BS. You might say within its jurisdiction, but certainly not within your borders because the borders is Morocco and you exist inside of Morocco. Stop it. United States versus James, case law. We have held that 18 U.S.C. subsection 3231 is the beginning and the end of the jurisdictional inquiry in cases involving violations of federal criminal law. United States versus Tony, case law. Burton has offered no evidence, and here we go. Burton has offered no evidence to support his assertions that he is not an American citizen. That's where therein is where his problem lies. He hasn't been able to show any supporting evidence to say that he's not an American citizen. What is your supporting evidence? Okay, your state. The documents coming from your state that was issued to you as a national from a competent Moorish state. All right, so Burton has offered no evidence to support his assertions that he is not an American citizen. And in other cases, we have rejected the argument that a defendant's alleged status as a sovereign state citizen entitles him to immunity from federal law. So others have come before the court with the same arguments, and they have also rejected it, like they just said right there. And in other cases, we have rejected the argument that a defendant's alleged status as a sovereign state citizen entitles him to immunity from federal law. See Lansdale versus United States, case law. Dismissing defendants' arguments that federal taxes did not apply because defendants were free-born, white, preamble, sovereign. So these were even white people trying it, which is your patriots, right? A lot of this UCC, what's his name? Winston Shrout, I think that was his name, who came out with this UCC remedy stuff back in the 80s, early 90s or something. That's what a lot of Moors are using for their remedy. And it's like, Moors, we gotta be a little bit more competent than that. Anyway, so I guess these white folks their arguments was that the federal taxes did not apply because defendants were free-born, white, preamble, sovereign, natural, individual, common law, de jure, citizens of a state, etc., as lacking in legal merit and what else? Patently frivolous. So if you ever wonder where Jay get that term from, I'm just highlighting it here. This is where you get it from. That is patently frivolous. I don't know why my highlights won't stick, but it's patently frivolous. It's lacking legal merit. That's what makes it patently frivolous. Why? Because you're not showing any documents to show and prove these points. All right. As for defendants' sovereign state citizen arguments, reasonable jurists could also not disagree that the claim is plainly frivolous. Right. Accordingly, we reject Burton's argument that his Moor nationality removed him from the criminal jurisdiction of the district court. Are we hearing this, what I'm reading? Let me read it again. Accordingly, we reject Burton's argument. We, who is we? Those four judges that I just mentioned earlier. Accordingly, we reject Burton's argument that his Moor or Moorish nationality removed him from the criminal jurisdiction of the district court. Now, keep in mind that they know that he's a Moor. They know that his nationality is that of a Moroccan, and they really don't have, lawful criminal jurisdiction over them. But they do because what? They're Moorish subjects. So as a Moorish subject, it is what it is. They have criminal and civil jurisdiction over you until you choose between the entire submission of the laws of the empire. You would still be considered a ipso jure Moorish subject. It's just is what it is. We have to make the proper moves and have the proper documents in order to stand out square properly to gain the proper remedy. So Burton also mentions in his opening brief the peace and friendship treaty between Morocco and the United States, but he does not explain how that treaty affects the district court's criminal jurisdiction in this case, right? As the government notes, nothing in the treaty supports Burton's position that he is exempt from criminal prosecution in the United States. We therefore reject Burton's argument that the treaty provides him with immunity from criminal prosecution in the United States. I'm gonna ask somebody on the floor, please answer. Why did the treaty, which we know is in full force, did not help him in this case? Why could he not use it for his immunity against or from criminal prosecution? Why is that? Can somebody tell me that? I know you guys got to be able to.
Is it because he didn't have a state behind him?
That's exactly right. Because the treaties can only be enforced by states, not individuals.
Islam.
Go ahead, brother.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. In the treaty, it also says if there's a dispute between the United States citizen or one under their protection, it's supposed to be settled through consular court. Due to the fact that there was no Moroccan consular court at the time, wasn't the protectorate the French?
At that time, no. The treaty has always been enforced, even during the protection.
There's no consular court, though, is what I'm saying at that time.
Well, the only reason why there wasn't a consular court at the time is because there was no Moorish governments.
Right.
It's just, so therefore there's no consular court. But France did not have keep in mind, this case took place in 2021.
Oh,
so,
okay. I'm thinking the 70s, okay, or earlier.
No, 2021. So the French protectorate was already dissolved.
Right. Okay, then.
But you're referring to this article. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any dispute with each other, the consul shall decide between the parties, and whenever the consul shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decision, it shall be immediately granted to him.
Right.
That's where, so the consul is consular court,
Right.
Islam. That's what you're referring to. But yeah, this case took place in 2021.
Thank you.
Islam. But even then, even if it took place during the time of the protectorate, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was still in force. And if there was, but see, there wouldn't be a need. There may not have been a need for the protectorate if we had our Sharifian authorities in operation, you see?
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why they needed the protectorate. So then Burton also argues that the district court erred in considering the past of the paper constructs prior convictions. Burton renews his claim that he is not the paper construct capital letter, all capital letter Rodney L. Burton. Look how they put it. They didn't even put it in all caps. However, up here, they have it in all caps. You see? They got it in all caps right here. That's the uppercase construct he was referring to. But here they got him as the proper grammatical format. Crazy how these people behave and operate. Burton renews his claim that he is not the paper construct capital letter, all capital letter Rodney L. Burton, named in the indictment. Burton has presented no evidence to support the claim that he is not the person named in the indictment. You gotta have evidence to show and prove your point in your case. Since when you go to court without evidence about stuff? Like, you always got to have evidence. That's just what it is. I mean, even on Judge Judy, you got to have evidence. And that's a de facto court for sure. It's a TV court. Anyway, after surveying documents in the trial record, the district court was satisfied Burton is the person named in the second superseding indictment. So they were satisfied after doing a careful review of the trial record. Why? Because it points right back to Burton. So if whoever the arresting officer was that arrested him the first time, he can be subpoenaed back to the court and to point out who he is, and that's him right there. That's Rodney Burton. Like, they got all the evidence stacked against you, and you don't have any evidence to prove your case. Burton is the person named in the second superseding indictment. The pre-sentence investigation report also provided various identifying information confirming Burton's identity. The pre-sentence investigation report also provided various identifying information confirming Burton's identity, including Burton's photograph, date of birth, social security number, and identifying tattoos. They got all the evidence. Where's yours, brother? Where's your state? Where's your consul general? Because they got it all. I'm surprised they didn't put fingerprints on there. What photographs are they referring to? Your driver's license photograph, maybe even your passport photograph. What else is on there? Date of birth, social security number. And of course, when you go to jail and stuff, they identify all your tattoos for future reference. During the trial, a probation officer who was familiar with Burton from his prior convictions identified Burton as the same person who had previously been convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm. So he's saying, I'm not Burton. I'm not under your jurisdiction. I'm a Moorish American. But then they have all the other evidence without evidence, but then they got all the evidence on their side. Because, you got the prosecution side and you got the defendant side. For the prosecution, they got all the evidence. They got your picture. They got your date of birth, social security, your identifying tattoos. And on top of that, your probation officer came in to point you out. When are we going to learn? That's why this is a great study case. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to state for the Moors listening in that everything that was just listed just now, if it's being used against you, you have to either be present in order to refute it in some way, or have your evidence contradict that. Because if they just go by what they have and you don't rebut it in any way, it stands as true.
That's right. But what is the proper way to rebut it? What is the proper documentation that you
Having
need
your
to?
having your state identification cards,
Mhm.
your own identifying document, record of live birth, so on and so forth. Without
That's
these
exactly
things on the record, they won't have a clue of what the hell you're talking about.
that's exactly right. So therefore, you're just going in there causing confusion.
Right.
That's all you're doing is causing confusion. What do you mean you're not a U.S. citizen? Don't you live in the United States? I see that you got a social security number. I see that you got a state ID. I see that you got a date of birth. I see that you got an address around here somewhere. Like, what do you? That's causes that it just really causes confusion, and it puts us in a status of incompetency, as well as sovereign citizens, blackamoors, etc. It just causes confusion. You got to be able to stand your square on what you're saying with your documents, not just oral statements and arguments. So it says, and I that so his uh probation officer who was familiar with Burton from his prior convictions identified Burton as the same person who had previously been convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Thus, there was ample evidence to conclude that Burton is the same person named in the indictment, and aside from his own statements, he has presented no evidence to the contrary.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Because there was ample evidence to conclude that Burton was the same person who had been previously convicted of various felonies, the district court also did not err in permitting the jury to consider Burton's prior convictions. During Burton's trial, the government presented evidence that Burton had previously been found guilty of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Presenting testimony from probation officer Michael Woolrich, confirming that Burton had previously been convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm. The government also introduced evidence, so they're not finished with the evidence, they got more. The government also introduced evidence that Burton received a sentence of 2 years for possession of marijuana in April 2002. So you're just going around here getting all types of time, causing problems, breaking the law, right? And now you want to come in here and talk about you some Moorish American. Man, if you don't get out of here with all that. And that was his second marijuana offense. See, like Moors, they just, these are the types of Moors we want to watch out for in our states. That's going to come in with ulterior motives to cause trouble, knowing or thinking that they have the backing of a state. Well, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, don't come up in here with all that and think that we're gonna back you. Because if you're guilty of going around here causing trouble, you on your own. AMPAG we ain't got nothing to do with that. We're not gonna muddy our name for you. That's just the bottom line. So keep that in mind, y'all. If anyone that's listening, don't come in here with all that. As discussed above, Burton's assertions that the defendant in those cases was a paper construct is insufficient justification for the court to exclude evidence of these past convictions. Therefore, the district court did not err in considering proof of these past convictions in determining his criminal history or in allowing the jury to consider them in determining Burton's guilt. For the foregoing reasons, we affirm Burton's conviction. Entered for the court, Mary Beck Briscoe, circuit judge. And it's really a circus judge is what I would say. So this is the case, the United States versus Burton. And what did we learn here? Let me show y'all what we learned here. So back to the expatriation document with brother or Mr. Hoffman Phillip speaking to Mr. Root, Secretary of State on August 3rd, 1906. Mr. Philip being the chargé d'affaires at the American legation in Tangiers, August 3rd, 1906. So this is what Hoffman Philip had to say. Let's listen again, because we've already went over this several times. Jay Bay has went over it several times. It's great to go over it again as a refresher. Sir, there are, strictly speaking, no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. In other words, Moors aren't citizens of no country. We don't deal with citizenship. That's the United States and whoever else. We deal with either you're a subject of the crown or subject to someone else, right? So either you're a subject of Morocco or a Moroccan subject. Subject of Morocco means that you're in your proper person under your government, the crown, the sultan, right? Versus a Moorish subject who is under the jurisdiction of a foreign country, United States, Great Britain, Germany, Italy, whoever, France. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries, like I just mentioned, and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. 1. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot do what Rodney Burton couldn't do, which is prove foreign citizenship or protection, are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. This was Burton's problem. He wasn't able to prove his foreign citizenship or protection. So you're saying that the United States has no jurisdiction over you. You're saying that that you're not an American citizen or a U.S. citizen. However, you can't show and prove how that's the case. So if you cannot prove your position, your verbal, your yap position, your word salad position, your yap, you know what I mean? You know, like Chris Tucker says, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? No, they don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth because you cannot show and prove with documentation. That's what they were saying. He does not have any. Where is it at around here? Right here, because there was an ample evidence note to conclude that Burton was the same person who had been previously convicted of various felonies. The district court also did not err the jury to consider Burton's prior convictions. Hold up. During the trial, probation officer, somewhere I read it. When you say ding, 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 I read it somewhere around here. But that was the point. He couldn't prove that he was protected by a foreign state. It's more specifically a Moroccan state. And since that's the case, that makes you an ipso jure Moorish subject. And what happens with ipso jure Moorish subject? They fall under the jurisdiction of the United States, especially as citizens, or should I say, naturalized citizens, because their original status is that of a Moorish subject, not a citizen. How do we know that? Go back to the top. It says that our country does not deal with the subject of citizenship. So he never was a citizen. We never were citizens. That's why they naturalized us against our consent, right? To take us out of the status of a Moorish subject and bring us into their jurisdiction as a citizen, because they don't have, like, for example, if he were what he really was supposed to do, especially as a Moorish subject in connection to Dred Scott, what his job was to do is to petition consular court. Why? Because this article said so, Article 20. So Burton is a person under their protection. So it says if any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection, so that's where Rodney Burton Bay falls under the jurisdiction or the protection of the United States, shall have any dispute with each other, the consul shall decide between the parties. You see? So he was supposed to petition consular court, but he didn't do so because he didn't know so, which means you don't even know what you're talking about in terms of your divinity, because your divinity includes your state, not just your ancient Moabite status. Well, let's go further. So he says 2 and 3. Moorish subjects lost their nationality. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. That's the Treaty of Madrid. Because the Treaty of Madrid actually gives the colonists authority to operate over Moorish subjects. Except while at the same time giving you 2 remedies. The number 1 remedy was Article 15, which he basically reaffirms, and also the protected persons list, Articles 7 and 8, specifically 8. So it says, Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. You see, that's the Madrid Convention. So that's why he reaffirms it. It was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July 3rd, 1880, as follows. All right, so let's go over Article 15. Paragraph 1, our favorite paragraph. Let's look at, while I read it, let's pull up my favorite picture of all time. 101s, Noble Drew Ali. Let's pull up that picture. Hey, what's that? Oh, what happened here? Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. Please be patient with me. 101. Noble Drew Ali. Let's see what that shows. Let's go to the 101 cover. Can y'all see it here? So you see behind the prophet, you see that's, can y'all see me? Can y'all see this? Don't look like it. What happened? Okay, there it is. Y'all see it now, right? So behind the prophet, and you see him, you see that shade, that's water, right? And it says the cares of the world. You can see his left foot is in the water, his right foot is stepping onto the rock of salvation, carrying the mother, which on her womb, you'll see humanity written on it. So what's the cares of the world? America. What is the rock of salvation? Morocco. So he's stepping out of the cares of the world, America, onto Morocco, carrying the mother. So that picture is a depiction of Article 15, in which he is choosing between the entire submission of the laws of the empire. Can you all see that? Is that a clear picture for you to see the point that I'm making as it relates to Article 15? Can y'all see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Right. And you can see the point that I'm making as to how he's stepping out of the cares of the world onto the rock of salvation, keeping in mind you can't spell Morocco without rock, and you can't spell Morocco without more. The prophet knew what he was doing. This is what you call the ultimate sign and symbol that represents this right here. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country. Why are they saying in a foreign country and not specifically the United States? Because the Madrid Convention consists of 12 signatory powers. 12 other countries. What are those countries? Germany, Great Britain, Spain, France, United States, Austria, Hungary. Who else? Several of them. Let's identify them. Let's identify these Christian nations. One more time for the record. So you got United States, Lucius Fairchild, we went over his document. Germany, Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Netherlands, Portugal, and Sweden and Norway. So you could have been naturalized in any one of those countries. Or countries. That's why it's not specific to that's why it's vague in terms of the country that is referring to. It just says a foreign country because it could have been any one of those countries. Because all of those countries are with the signatory powers as part of the Convention of Madrid. So it says any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submissions to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco, which it wasn't. Foreign naturalization heretofore, this is paragraph 2, just as important. Foreign naturalization, therefore, or heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco, according to the rules established by the laws of each country. What country? Again, Germany, Austria, Sweden, France, Spain, etc. shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restrictions. So if you don't choose Morocco and you remain in America or whatever foreign country, the laws of that country shall be upon you without any restrictions, man. George Floyd, Michael Brown, Tiana Taylor, what's the other guy? Aubrey Muhammad or whatever. Trayvon Martin, Rodney King, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Right now, Kanye or Ye, Nick Cannon, Kyrie Irving. These are varying degrees of certain circumstances in which their laws are applying against you. Whether it be the police killing you or they just blackballing you. Because Nick Cannon and Kyrie, they don't have another choice. They don't have nowhere to go. So they were better off just keeping their mouth shut. Unless you're going to take it to the max like Ye seems to be. Right? You can't go against Jacob if you don't have legislation to deal with Jacob. And your legislation supersedes all of Jacob's laws. Your laws is the supreme law of the land. So Jacob holds nothing against you as a national, but he got everything over you as a Moorish subject or a Moorish protege. Why? Because you have failed to choose between the entire submission, and by not choosing between the entire submission, by not choosing Morocco, the laws of the country shall be continued upon you with all its effects without any restrictions. Period. Point blank. This is what the brother didn't want to hear. So you're in your emotions and you're not dealing with scholarship. The above ruling has never yet been acted upon. Should this at any time be contemplated seriously, as we have been contemplating, and not just contemplating, but acting on it, a large number of naturalized people, American and others residing in Morocco, will be affected thereby. He said the above ruling has never yet been acted upon. That's 1906. It hasn't been acted upon until 2021. 1906 to 2021. How many years is that? Basically, let me see. 2006 would have been 100 years, right? 1906 to 2006 is 100 years. So that's over 100 years, over a century. It hasn't been acted upon or contemplated seriously. It has not been acted upon or contemplated seriously in over 100 years. Well, here is AMPAG, New Mecca, AMPAG, now Maru. We are contemplating this seriously to the point where we're acting upon it. And that act in and of itself, active, not passive, the act of enacting a ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution has got Jacob worried and concerned because he knows that that's the only way, and in that way only, that we will be able to beat them. And I'm talking about by a long shot. I'm talking about a landslide. They cannot they cannot stand against us with that pen. Like I've said previously, we have to come to the mindset of Luke Skywalker when he beheaded Darth Vader. No other time could he have beaten Darth Vader, because any prior time to that would have been young Luke Skywalker in his own way, based in what? Fear. Why? Because he did not recognize his own inner power. Same thing with Neo of the Matrix. Even on the roof, he was doing crazy things, but it wasn't, nothing was crazier than jumping inside of Agent Smith or stopping a bullet by just putting your hands up. He came to the point. Prior to that, he was training with Morpheus, getting his butt kicked, etc. Why? Because he was still in his own way. He still didn't recognize his inner power. That's where the Moors are. We are in our own way because we don't recognize our own power. But once we do, and we act upon it, we seriously contemplate it and act upon it, Jacob is done, and Esau shall prevail. 4 and 5. Residence in foreign parts does not affect the nationality of Moorish subjects, and the Moorish government has no means of protecting its subjects permanently residing in other countries, with the exception of a so-called Moorish consul at Gibraltar and a Moorish agent at Cairo, Egypt. I am, etc. Hoffman Philip. So this document was written or discussed. This discussion took place in 1906. This case took place in 2021. It was decided April 6, 2021. I don't know how many over 100 years later, and we still utilizing oral arguments and no proof of what we're saying. We're just saying it. We're just talking it. But we're not presenting for the record any type of evidence to support your position. So what did they come to court with? Okay, they came to court with the prosecution, that is. Where is it? Indictment. Where is it? The prosecution came with, okay, they came with a photograph of him. Hold on, let me see. Where is it? Where is it, y'all? Third party intervener should be over here. The free sovereign who is eternally because it used the past papers, the construct review. Where is the daggone thing? Right here. Should be up here. We first addressed Burton's arguments that the district court lacked jurisdiction. Where is the part that they talked about bringing in all the other evidence? and the name and the second superseding. Okay, there it is. So the prosecution came with his photograph, date of birth, social security number, and identifying tattoos. Come on, could you please stick? Plus, they had his probation officer show up and point them out. So look at the difference. So the prosecution comes with all these documents that show and prove their case, their evidence. Rodney Burton was supposed to have his evidence for his case on his side of the table, right? There's two sides of the table. One is the prosecution, the other one is the defendants, right? So they came with Burton's photograph. Let's assume that photograph represents the driver's license. You got a driver's license? I got a state ID. You got a social security number? I got a national ID number. You got a date of birth, or let's say a certificate of birth, a birth certificate? I've got an allodial certificate of live birth. You brought in a probation officer? I got my consul general. How far you want to take this? It's like for like. You got a king, I got a king. You got a queen, I got a queen. You got 8 pawns, I got 8 pawns, right? You got 2 rooks, I got 2 rooks. Everything that they show up with, you supposed to have as well. What else you want? What else you want? You got a seal, we got a seal. You got a flag, we got a flag. You got a constitution, we got a constitution. The difference between us two, though, is that our constitution has been ratified, deposited, and promulgated in accordance with international law, Article 102 of the Charter, United Nations Charter. The state of, the state of Georgia, or whatever other trust territory, they've never ratified, deposited, or promulgated their constitution with any international depository. The United States is holding on to that. This is one of the main reasons why AMPAG has sovereign authority over the state of Georgia and why New Mecca has authority over Oregon. Because New Mecca and AMPAG, we've got ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitutions, whereas Oregon and Georgia does not. This is the reason why they must register with us. Because they are a corporation doing business in Morocco and specifically within our Utipas jurisdiction of AMPAG or New Mecca or AMPAG or Meru. So what would his emanating documents be to show up in court as his evidence to show and prove what his oral statements are? His state ID, his certificate of live birth, his national identification number, right? What else? Oath of allegiance. He's got a state flag. He's got a state seal, because he is supposed to do what? Citizens in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso mori subjects. So if I have a state ID, I've got my certificate of live birth, I've got my national identification number, I've got my state seal, state flag, constitution, oath of allegiance. Well, that's all the proof. What else you need?
Islam. I'm glad you asked that. It would also help if he has a consul with him, and or two, at least 2 witnesses that can corroborate his story, verify his identity, just like the court would call in a former police officer to verify your identity based on his past encounter with you. You feel me? So having our own people there would add to the whole, is he who he says he is?
That's exactly right. And I said that earlier in case you missed it when I was mentioning what they brought in. They brought in their documents, but then on top of those documents, they brought in the his probation officer. Well, the equivalent to that would be his consul general. So you would have had his consul general say, okay, well, but we recognize him as a Bay, and we recognize him as a national in our state, which means you have no jurisdiction over him. And this matter needs to be settled in consular court. But you're absolutely correct, brother. But you ain't need that. You could, it will be because we're dealing with Moroccan law, it'd be more than sufficient to just come out with your state ID, oath of allegiance, you know, your not even your oath of allegiance, your state ID, your national identification number, your loyal certificate of live birth, you know, I mean, you could even say the Constitution. That proves that you're under the protection of another state. See, it said prove now having an extra having witnesses corroborating, you know, your consul general, your sutra, you know, that'll be more than that'll be icing on the cake, right? But if you read this document here, it doesn't say that any of that is necessary. You just got to be able to prove it. And how do you prove it? With your emanating documents that show and prove that you are under the protection of another state. Islam, good brother. I yield the floor at this point for any questions, comments, concerns. You know, let's open up the floor for discussion. Islam.
So I did want to make one quick comment regarding the power of the pen. It's very much, as they say, the pen is mightier than the sword. It's very much true when it comes to protecting civil liberties or whatever other natural rights you have, inalienable rights you have. The power of the pen, however, can only protect so much, right? And as more start to create their state governments, we're gonna have to keep that in the back of our minds collectively, because the prophet said the Europeans won't stop until he stares death in the face, right? So we have to be prepared for the possible reality of physical conflict in the event that the treaty is terminated, because there's no guarantee that once either party or both parties terminates the treaty, that they won't use every ounce of military force they have against us. They have left, I should say. Right? So we have to keep that in the back of our minds, that the power of the pen, yes, it's as powerful as it is, it can only protect so much. And a cornered rat will always fight that.
Well, I would say this. And by the way, something is wrong with your phone. It's kind of like it's staticky when you're talking. I would disagree. The power of the because here's the deal. If it comes to the point when either one of us, what's the word I'm looking for? You just said the word. What was the word you just used in dealing with going back on the treaties, terminating.
Yeah.
If it comes to the point where we terminate the treaty, that means that we are in power. Because the only people that can terminate the treaties or the only entities that can terminate the treaties are Moors in their proper person as Moroccan nationals of a Moroccan state. Which means that thus far the pen had prevailed. So if that's the case, then guess what we have taken control of? Their military, which means now they're left without a military to even strike back. That's number one. Number two, let's see. I'm trying to think of which treaty to go to.
Islam. Before you continue, I just wanted to say that would be presuming that we have not yet disarmed their citizens. Because if we have control of their military and citizens still armed, well, they got means to fight back.
Militia that you're talking about.
You're talking about a militia.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're still in a position where the pen has prevailed to the point where we were able to terminate the treaty, which means that not only does the United States of America, the United States and its charter colonies, but all its citizens fall under our jurisdiction anyway, our authority anyway. And they can't, they'll be left out in the cold. First of all, they'll be stateless. They will be absolutely stateless, which means we have taken over everything. And that's not something that they want to do. But the part two to the answer was that use of force is outlawed. They cannot use use of force. If they even attempted to do that, do you realize that the whole world will collapse, will come down on the United States? Like, wait a minute. No, y'all not. I know you guys are not attacking this up and coming state. The whole country the whole world will fall on the United States. But like the Montevideo Convention, in fact, we went over the Treaty of Laws, the law of treaties, 3 days ago on Sunday. And it said that no state can interfere with another state. They cannot interfere with our state. That also means use of force. It's outlawed all across the United Nations Charter. It's all about peace and security. Where else did we read that? The rights of indigenous people. You cannot use. It's just totally outlawed. They cannot use use of force. Go ahead, brother.
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, there's those Europeans who don't know anything about international law or these treaties. All they see is someone trying to steal their property. Now, guaranteed, there's going to be some skirmishes. There's going to be some blood loss, but at the end of the day, we have to maintain security of our borders. We have to maintain our governments and the Moorish Empire. But yeah, there's going to be blood loss. Of course. I mean, if we think there's not, I think we're fooling ourselves.
No, I don't think so. They're not coming at us. They're coming at us.
I'd say that's where the power of the press would have to come in. We as Moors would have to bring back integrity to the press, right? And so that way, word of these changes can spread to everybody, everywhere in Morocco.
Brother Hakeem, you got to fix your phone. It's really bad. It's staticky like crazy. But I want to hear what you're saying. If you'll adjust your phone or do something.
So it might be the static around or something. Is it any better right now?
Yeah, it's better now.
I hear you fine.
Okay. So yeah, the power of the press, being able to for us Moors to bring back integrity to the press and being able to spread the information about the changes to every living entity in Morocco, including the Amish. You feel me? So that would be, for me at least, in order to prevent unnecessary bloodshed, we would have to maintain control of the press.
Okay, even if we maintain control of press, do you not know of some Europeans down in Georgia? Because I sure know some up here, regardless of what the people say, even their own government, they ain't giving up what they consider theirs without a fight.
Right. That's very true.
That's reality. We can talk all day about whatever we wish happened, but reality is, man, people gonna fight for what they think is theirs.
Okay. All right. So now look at this. Which court supersedes all other courts?
The competent consular court. Okay. But again, they don't know nothing about that.
No, hold on. They're gonna learn about it today.
Okay. Once they learn about it and the court is taking their property, they don't want to hear nothing from the court again.
No. Listen to what I'm saying, brother. First of all, let's make this point clear. They will just be arrested. It's my point. If you want to partake in bloodshed, then you get locked up.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but at that point, we got to have control of the police and control of all of our dominion. Because what I'm thinking is you're talking about at what stage of the game are you talking about? After we've taken completely control of our domain, the police and the state of Georgia is paying you tribute, paying their taxes to you, they register to you.
I'm speaking from the perspective of after we came back from the ICJ. Okay. And here's what's going to happen. When we're at the ICJ case is going to reveal quite a lot, actually.
I agree.
And they're going to learn these same militant rednecks with the red trucks, pickup trucks. Mm-hmm. They're going to learn real quick who deceived them? So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Who deceived the U.S. citizens, the white folks, if you will? Who deceived them?
The government did.
United States of America, didn't it? The United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who they going after when they find out that they've been deceived and that none of the property that they think that they own, that they think they own, that they actually don't own it? Who do you think they're going after? Do you think they're going to be going after us, or do you think they'll be going after the United States?
Well, if they see that all of their property going into the hands of the Moroccans, they'll probably consider the Moroccans fair game too.
I would agree with that.
On that point, is very true because I could see that going either way, depending on what we do, because they could turn all of their anger and hatred towards us.
Islam brothers, I cannot understand what you're saying. There's so much static.
Yeah, it is a lot of static in your phone.
Any better?
Yeah, to me it
Okay.
is.
I hear
So
him fine all day, but that's just my phone. I'm
I
sorry.
hear him fine too, but I still hear static and it's a little
Oh.
bit annoying. I'm just
Okay.
being patient with it. But
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
now, sister?
Yes, I can hear now. I just still hear some static.
Okay.
okay. So the point I was trying to make is that it could go either way, depending on what we do, because they could turn all their anger and frustration against us, being that we're coming in, the new landlords, essentially taking back what was rightfully ours.
Right.
But if we could, through the press, our press, make it so that they are aware that no harm would come to them, and they technically wouldn't be booted off their what they believe is their land. They won't be shipped back to Europe or whatever. They would have certain rights and protections under our Moroccan government, so on and so forth. If that can be properly communicated to them, I think that would avert any unnecessary conflict. I'm sure there's going to be some because there's some diehard, like
Mhm.
really hateful people mostly in the South. But in order to prevent any collective, how would you say, subversion, to prevent that, any insurrection, we would have to maintain that control of the press and communicate effectively how their lives are going to be protected under the new government.
Okay. Um, that's fair to a degree, but I feel like what we're gonna have is a January 6th all over again, an insurrection. What insurrection? The Patriots and whatever you want to call them, looking for bloodshed. They're gonna want to go after their politicians. They're gonna want to go after the government. They're gonna want to go after the United States for lying to them, having them believe that they're superior when in actuality they're not. Will they come after us? I mean, I hear your positions, but I don't see that as a situation. But then also, we're talking about two different situations. Initially, I thought we were talking about the United States and their military coming after us, in the effort to not give anything up. But now we're talking about the average citizen coming after us. That's a different story than coming after us because the government of the United States or signatory powers to, for example, the Montevideo Convention, Article 11 states, the contracting states definitely establish, let me make it big, the contracting states definitely establish as the rule of their conduct the precise obligation not to recognize territorial acquisition or special advantages which have been obtained by force, whether this consists in the employment of arms, in threatening diplomatic representations, or in any other effective coercive measures. The territory of a state is inviolable and may not be the subject, or should I say the object of military occupation, nor of other measures of force imposed by another state, directly or indirectly, or in any motive, whatever, even temporarily. And this is Pact Servanta, what's the word? Let's go back to it. We already Pacta Sunt Servanta. We've already looked up Pacta Sunt Servanta, which Pacta Sunt Servanta means what? Agreements must be kept. Also, Article 24. Let's go to it. Article 24 of the Treaty on Peace and Friendship. If any differences shall arise by either party infringing on any of the articles of this treaty, peace and harmony shall remain, notwithstanding, in the fullest force until a friendly application shall be made for an arrangement, and until that application shall be rejected, no appeal shall be made to arms. They cannot, so if we're talking about the United States, throw that out the window. They cannot attack us. They won't and they cannot. These are just two treaties, and I didn't even go over the rights of indigenous peoples. Because I cannot.
The United States didn't sign that treaty. But
Which
I
one?
understand what you're saying. I agree with you. But I'm just making an observation.
They did sign the treaty. They just didn't create. Obama signed that treaty, the rights of indigenous peoples.
No, I was thinking about the ones on the page on the cover now.
No, this is the rights. This is the Treaty of Peace.
Right.
So they signed this one.
United States signed that one?
The United States of America.
Right.
But the United States is still obligated to the treaty nonetheless.
Okay. Now, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. But I've been around for a little while, and I know how. Well, in my opinion, they've broken treaties. No, I'm not going to go there. I'll just stay focused on what you're saying. The treaty says they cannot go to arms when there is a dispute, and if one of the is rejected. Right, no appeal shall be made to arms. We know that, and we didn't learn it in school though. So what I'm just saying is, the majority of the people out there don't know nothing about this treaty.
Well, we're talking about. Well, hold on. We've got to qualify the conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One thing is
Hold
on. One thing is the United States government. The other thing is their citizens. We got to separate the conversation. Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the government, or are we talking about their ignorant citizens?
I can explain how the conversation led into that, because I started off discussing that fact, essentially referring to their government when I was speaking about Europeans in general, right? Yes. Now, you had made reference to the fact that they're not allowed to use force, right? Now, immediately afterward, when you were looking for some document, I chimed in, and you made mention of if we have control of the military, or we would have control of the military. So the point I made after that was that's presuming if we already have that's presuming if we have already disarmed their citizens. That's when the conversation shifted from the national aspect to the citizens, right?
Correct.
Because we could have control of their military, yes, but if their citizens are still armed, then you have the potential of having like small little skirmishes here and there, you know, or you might have a lone wolf, you know, going around shooting up people. But yeah, so that's when the conversation shifted, when you were searching for the document, and I made that reference.
Okay, that's wrong. I recall that. So let's separate the conversation and continue on with it. So if we're talking about the United States, we've already established that they cannot use use of force, and I don't believe that they will. If they do, like I said, not only would the world come down on them, but the United Nations themselves have a military the blue helmet guys, what are they called? Peacekeepers. And they will be enacted. And they will be brought over here to Morocco to deal with the U.S. belligerents if they even try to use force. They already know that. They won't be using force. I don't see it. Now, when you talk about now we can switch the conversation now to the United States citizens and their crazy rednecks or whatever that might want to, according to you all, attack us for being the heirs of the land. I don't see that. What I see is an insurrection against the United States. What I see is a bunch of pissed off white folks that's going to be mad at their own, and they're going to be going after their own. What they got to do with us? What would that even be an ounce of concern? And even if they did want to do that, again, we've already relinquished, or not relinquish, restored the power and control over all law enforcement, military and all. So we'll just activate the military, the National Guard or whatever, to deal with these crazy rednecks if they think that they're going to come in and attack a Moorish government or any national because they butthurt about the fact that none of this stuff belongs to them, right? We'll have law enforcement in place to deal with them.
Okay.
But again, my position is that they will be going after the United States and not us. Go ahead, bro.
Okay. I was thinking we need to decide where in the scenario are the Moroccan government. Are we in control of all arms, like it says in the General Acts of Algeciras? Are we in control of all of that? Because at that point, yeah, you're completely right. But if we're talking about before that happens, when we don't have enough states that are formed to form the United States of Morocco, and then the United States has taken away their extra territorial jurisdiction. Because it all depends on where we are when we start making these moves. Because if we are at the point where, yes, we control our domains, they have registered with us, they've fallen in line with the treaties, okay? Then to me, it would be closer to a cakewalk than any other time, because the United States they succumb to our jurisdiction, our consular courts and things of that nature, and want to be, not sent home, but stay here on the land and work and become and continue commerce. And then start taking in the fact that, okay, they do have a treaty of peace and friendship with us, and they want to go ahead and continue that. That's great. But that's that's a little further down the line than I think what we were talking about, what I was talking about when the European first realized that he's been lied to, and the property that he's cherished so much that he'll die in that house before he ever thinks about giving it up. Okay, he wanted those to go to his children. Okay, now Hakeem was talking about the Moroccan news media or newspaper. Okay, and in that newspaper, we convinced them that we're not trying to be belligerent with them, but they have protections within our government, and they will, they can possibly stay in their properties, whatever the consular courts come up with in the government. But it won't be a situation where where Moors are killing Europeans in the street. No, absolutely not. Because the main thing is we're supposed to have friendship. We're supposed to have a relationship where they come over here, they do their commerce, they make their money, they pay us a percentage. Okay. And the United States or the United States of America is worth trillions of dollars a year, trillions. And for that to work, we have to have them to stay here so that we can not only collect the taxes and everything, but also make it to where your tenant is comfortable. He doesn't want to move to somewhere else because you hit your foot on his neck, And that's exactly what we should be trying to do. So, but again, the European, he's not going to want to give up so easily. I'm just going to say that. And when you say that you don't think there's going to be bloodshed, well, I do, but it doesn't have to be too bad. You know what I'm saying? If we communicate to them correctly, can get to them and let them know that this is not a war against them, but the Moors must take back what's theirs. Okay, and due to the fact that your government didn't teach you the laws and the treaties in school or whatnot over the years, it's not our fault because they didn't teach us either. We had to learn on our own. But once we did learn and we found out who the Moors truly are, then we started getting active and getting our land back. And this is the result of lying and conniving and killing over the years that caused this to happen. Had they done it in 1937 when they gave up their territorial jurisdiction, you know, and started contemplating how to relinquish power back to the Moors and giving them the information they needed. They didn't. It was all because they couldn't see themselves giving all this land back to people who they conquered over the years. Well, now that they're at this point, now they got to deal with the situation now. And you're right, there's going to be a lot of people, Europeans, so-called white people, who are going to be mad at the United States because they could have had this done a long time ago. But now their children are living in a situation where they have to not even to inherit the property. They may be able to continue to live there, but the property is not theirs, you know, and they were planning on their farms, their businesses, all this stuff. We don't want to kick them out of there because it's producing and they're making monies, and then they'll be able to produce rents, taxes, things of that nature, but it's not theirs. That's the thing.
Right.
It's not theirs.
I think you misunderstood me. Go ahead.
I don't think they're going anywhere. They're gonna get used to the fact that they have to pay taxes. Everything is here. Absolutely. Their life is here. Their entertainment is here. Their football is here. Everything that they love is here. So they're not going anywhere. They're just gonna have to deal with it. I know it's gonna take some time. They're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Islam.
What I would also say this. Go ahead.
I was going to say I think AMPAG and New Mecca is correct, and I think it's due to population, wherein population in as far as the Moors are concerned is quite heavy in Atlanta, but not as nowhere close to being heavy in New Mexico.
Right. Islam. Well, I will say I was saying I didn't say that I don't agree that there could potentially be bloodshed. I just don't see them coming after us. I see them as having another insurrection like January 6th, but a major one, much bigger one. In fact, I think that Moore is going to be able to sit back with popcorn and some water and sit back and watch the show. What show will we be watching? How these Europeans, these Albayans, going to deal with their own government officials when they find out that they've been played. There's no reason. Right. Us. I don't see why would they come after us. We didn't play them. It was your own people that played you. In fact, now another point to make clear, I don't see them recognizing any of this happening prior to the ICJ, right? It's the ICJ that's going to spill the beans. It's going to be that case that's going to spill the beans for everybody to realize and find out, oh, damn, we've been played the whole time. We got played. I don't see how that would happen prior to it unless we're informing Europeans about what's going on. And I don't think that we'll be wasting our time doing that. What's going to happen is we'll be going to the United, just the same way the ICJ case with France and the United States revealed a lot of information that we can use for our salvation. It's the same way that the case between us and the United States and the ICJ will also reveal the atrocities that they put through, not only us through, but also their own citizens. And then when they find that out, Black people and white people going to take it to the streets. And I highly doubt that they'll be coming after us because we're the innocent parties. We also were abused mentally based on miseducation and animal husbandry. All of us have been dealing with animal husbandry. So it's going to be them who's going to take it to the streets against the colony, against their own. There's going to be another insurrection. I see that. I just respectfully disagree. I do not see them coming after us. I don't see why they would come after us. It doesn't even really, they're ignorant, but they ain't stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they ain't that stupid. Why would they come after us? You know,
when I said they come after us, I meant the NBCs, you know, not necessarily the Moroccans. As far as they're concerned, I don't think they know very much about us or where to find Moors other than the Moor Science Temple of America, maybe, you know, those temples that they have lined up in different places.
Well, that's the point. Excuse me. After the ICJ, they're gonna know where to find us.
So if I could real quick, prior to this hypothetical and very real potential for a insurrection with the citizens of the United States and the United States itself, more state governments would, it would be ideal for more state governments to have their press up and running full time, because someone is going to have to explain all this to the average people, because I highly doubt the United States government is going to shed any ounce of truth, even if that's on the record with the ICJ, even if other nations are broadcasting it live, right? They have such a tight grip on the media within the United States. I highly doubt that's going to reach the people. On top of that, in the event that this happens, more than likely, the United States and its various agencies are going to have to crack down on the insurrection, right? Because if at any point our governments have to step in, we are going to be seen as the enemy. Now, while we're in the background and they're cracking down on it, our press needs to be working full time, right? Not feeding the flames, but giving context and comprehension of what's really going on, because there's going to be a onslaught of misinformation campaigns, not just by the United States, but also by various independent actors, right? So this is where, after we use the power of the pen, we're gonna have to use the power of the press to prevent the need to use physical military power. Hopefully by then, each state already has all these things, just in case, right? But ideally, we want to do most of the fighting, if you will, through the press. But yeah, that's all.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said, except for one thing. Here's the deal: CNN, NBC, CNBC, you name them. I don't care what their name is. Fox, Bloomberg, whatever the outlet is. Where are they located? In Morocco. Under whose jurisdiction? United States. Who has the authority over the United States? Moroccans. What am I saying? The power of the pen once again. We tell them to cover this case and cover it accurately and dispense the information accurately without misinformation. That's our press. The same CNN, the same FBC, CBS, the same Fox. We have, this is what I keep saying, that we have to come back to we have to come to the mindset of Luke Skywalker when he beheaded Darth Vader. Because right now, the way we're talking is as if they're gonna just misinform the whole world and not listen to us and us telling them what they need to do and how they need to report this case. It's up to legislation. We have to let them know exactly how they need to operate in this new media platform that's going to take place when we come back into power after we come back from the ICJ, and they will have to adhere to it. If you don't adhere to it, we would have certain repercussions in place. But my point that I'm making is, yes, we need the power of the press. But it's just like saying, we need the agricultural department, right? We need an agricultural department. So now, do we establish an agricultural department, or do we take over the agricultural department and manage it? Same thing. Do we create our own media, or do we take over the media and govern it accordingly? That's the mindset that we have to take. We are the ultimate authority. We are the ultimate power. And through our legislation, we tell them what to do. And you must report this case fairly, and according to what's actually going on, without any form or sense of misinformation. They themselves are going to be the ones to educate their own. Watch what I tell you. That's my position.
I agree with you. 100%. Well said. We can't live in fear.
We cannot live in fear. We gotta let them know that we say what it is, and as we say, so shall it be. This is Morocco.
Yeah.
We are the Moroccans, and Moroccan law supersedes it all. What is legislation? Moroccan law.
Mm-hmm.
And if we come back from the ICJ and they done got beaten at the ICJ, you best believe at that point, they must acquiesce and they must bow down and they must do as we say. So they will report this thing accordingly. Not only will they, because see, the mindset, the misunderstanding also is that they won't report it. They're going to keep it, they're going to sweep it under the rug. No, the hell they're not. We will make sure that they televise this and that they report it, and they report it in accordance with what actually took place, and not know nothing else, nothing more, nothing less, no form of misinformation. Now, can we also have our own media running alongside of theirs? Yes, we can do that too. So what the good brother Akeem is saying, I agree with, but let's not lose sight of the fact that we have the authority and to tell them what the hell to do. Is the whole point of decolonization is to bring them under our jurisdiction, under our Moroccan laws, under our governance. So it's our job to govern them, and governing them means telling them what to do. But that doesn't mean that we can't have our own press. So yeah, we can have our Moroccan medias, but they also need to adhere to what we're telling them to do through legislation, and they too must report the case accordingly. Islam?
I got you. Now, with that in mind, I would like for us all to recall, I'm sure some people here might not be aware because they're not in the group, but the thing I posted earlier in the Telegram of private sector personnel destroying property because it was announced that the government is nationalizing, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to be mindful of that real possibility.
Yes.
When it comes to us taking over what it is that the Europeans have been building on our land, because there's a very real possibility that prior to us taking control, they are going to destroy everything out of spite.
There's a okay, fair enough. There's a possibility that wouldn't necessarily be smart for them, because all you're doing is destroying the same things that y'all built. We still got the land, we rebuild everything. So I mean, that would be stupid on their part if they want to destroy everything. They'll be acting like napkins then, because remember the California riot after the Rodney King situation. You just started burning down everything. So that's basically what you're saying. Listen, this is not going to be an easy transition. And yes, you're right. There's a lot of concerns as to how the people are going to react. It's not just the college. It's not just the Europeans. There's also our own Black people. In fact, I see them linking up. The NBCs and the Europeans, they probably gonna link up to tear stuff up. Because that's basically what they were doing during the insurrection. It wasn't just white people; it was Black people involved in that.
Yeah.
So and also keep in mind too, the belligerent redneck red truck drivers, whatever, shotgun holders, hunters. There's less of them than there is of the regular everyday law-abiding Albayan citizen, white citizen, or whatever you want to call them, white people in general. There's more upstanding, law-abiding white citizens than there are those rednecks that want to tear stuff up with their militia and stuff. That's another point to recognize. And also keep in mind too, that the whole world is looking for our rise. Guess who else is looking for our rise? The same white people. There was a TikTok out here, this white lady with glasses telling my man, Black people, please wake up. Y'all got all the power, crying. Those types of people exist. And there's a whole lot of them. And guess whose side they would be on? Our side, especially when they find out that the United States played them the way they played them. And then they also find out, like the good brother Amir was saying, that we're not here at war. We're not here to enslave you. We're not here to take anything away from you. They're going to find that out. They're going to find out that we're here in love, true peace, freedom, and justice. And they're going to want to choose a submission. They're going to want to choose a submission between the laws of the empire they damn selves. So, your points have been made pretty doggone clear. I just think that the aim is misconstrued. I don't think that they'll be aiming for us. In fact, I think they'll fear us. They scared. Listen, these people are scared of us. They know what we're capable of. They know what we'll do. If we got Crips and Bloods, GDs and Pyrus and Peace Stones and all these different gangs that's attacking ourselves, that's Black on Black crime, and we're violent with it. If we're willing to go to the extent to put our own in the grave, imagine what we would do to them. These people are scared. What they want to find out is that we're not going to enslave them. What they want to find out is that we're not going to lock them up. What they want to find out is that we will be in peace and harmony with them. And we will be in peace and harmony with them, because that's what the Treaty of Peace and Friendship says. Plus, not only that, but violating human rights, which would be things like enslaving and killing and imprisonment and all this kind of stuff. That goes against just cogence, preemptory norms of international law, human rights. We have the authority and the power to do any and all things we want to do here in Morocco, except violating just cogence, human rights. And they will understand that, and they will stand side by side with us. I could assure you of that. There's a better chance of them standing side by side with us than there is of them trying to attack us because they found out that they're actually the tenants and we're the landlords. I see more of a chance of them trying to side with us against the United States than to attack the United States and attack Morocco. I don't see them attacking us both. I can see them attacking the United States. I don't see them attacking us. I see them siding with us, especially, as you said, through our media. Jay Bay has done a good job of giving the impression that we're here in the spirit of diplomacy. I think that us over here at AMPAG, in our video sessions, I think that we've done a good job of expressing that as well. We're not belligerent here for me, for example, if I go in on anybody, I'm going in on our own. Notice that throughout all the sessions that we've had, I never go in on Europeans. I go in on our own, because our own is the reason why we are where where we're at. Like the good brother Jay Bay have said before, we left one eugenics program to jump into another. What is that new eugenics program? The Moorish American movement, in which we've been fed a whole lot of misinformation, fear, and hate. Excuse me. All the principles that's against the prophet. We're never supposed to be in fear, and we damn sure ain't supposed to be in hate. We're supposed to be encouraged. We're supposed to be in love instead of hate. But when you spew misinformation and all the problems without any solutions, that breeds hate and fear. See, a lot of the prior teachers, Moorish teachers, have only taught the bad stuff, the dumb diversa, the doctrine of discovery, and all these different things, paper bulls, the Christian black codes, etc. But never have we spoken about how to deal with that competently and properly. The so-called remedies that have been discussed were actually patently frivolous. So that didn't do anything. It worked till it don't work no more. But there's only one solid way to handle this, in one way and in one way only, and that's through consular court. But you can't have consular court until you have a state. And you cannot have a state without 3 branches of government. And you can't have none of the above without a ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution. Article 102 of the Charter, the United Nations Charter, all international law instruments, documents, arrangements, conventions, acts, treaties, etc., they all must be ratified, deposited, and promulgated. Here's another example. Putin has ceased fire with Ukraine. There was agreement made or drawn up between Ukraine and Russia. That document has been ratified and deposited. And then Putin came on TV or whatever, on the news, and promulgated it. What is promulgation? Promulgation is a synonymous word to marketing for a business. Marketing, advertisement, letting the world know that you exist so that you would sell your products, because if they don't know your product exists, they won't buy it, right? Obviously. Well, the term for that in government is promulgation, letting the world know. So our public inauguration, that's a form of promulgation. Our AMPAG Media YouTube channel is a form of promulgation. Our website is another form of promulgation. That's what promulgation really means. And so even with a ceasefire, the agreement had to be ratified and deposited with the United Nations, according to Article 102. And then it was promulgated by Putin himself, by letting the world know, we've got a ceasefire going on, right? And so, yeah, so to go back to the point though, there will be a lot of pissed off people, Black people even. I was trying to find something. There's gonna be a lot of pissed off people, Black people even, that's gonna wanna burn stuff down. Well, this is where our competent Moorish states must come in and keep Pookie and Shanae and Suge Knight and Cujo and all the likes at bay. We gotta come in and calm them down. We're gonna have to come in and let them know that everything is gonna be all right. There's no need to tear down and burn down anything because all this stuff belongs to you. Every time you burn down a building, think about the taxes that you're gonna lose. The tax money. See, we gotta remind them of the money. You remind them of the money, they fall back and chill. Islam, I yield the floor. Any other comments in regards to the matter, or if you want to change the subject, any other subjects, I'm listening.
Islam Moroccan.
Islam Moroccan.
Yes, great, Wazir. Wonderful. The moon is in Cancer. We got to remember the zodiac. We gotta go back to our fundamentals. Go back to going back to that square and circle. And the purpose of the fairs and the tassels. So, we gotta remember, that the time that we're in, this is Aquarius. This is I just came across some things just to put some positive energy into your ears, going in self, going inward, I was thinking, when you deal with Aquarius, it deals with the ankle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, the ankle, because I'm dealing with the letter K, and I kept, texting stuff to the Telegram. I was waiting for people to feedback. So if I said something, I'm just waiting for y'all to see what the feedback gonna be, try to see where y'all at with this. And I'm saying ankle, and I'm going, wait a minute, ankle. So I remember in comedics, I remember the hieroglyphs, and I remember how they would have the ankh. The ankh is posed to the nose or poised to the ankle. And I thought about the ankle, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, okay, I get it. That's the ankh. So when you say ankle, you say ankh. The whole science of understanding how the geometrics work is something that we fell out of. We stopped studying and understanding the correlation of how the zodiac works, dealing with the ankh, which is the double seven. And to turn to a certain angle, it's the letter K. Going back to there, we're the Canaanites. When the letter K is knowledge.
Correct.
K, when you turn the K sideways, that's the two temples. When you turn it vertical, that's the pyramid under the two lines of the temples on the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, forming the pyramid under it, which is the nasal. And that is going back to the breath.
Correct.
And K is the 11th letter of the alphabet, of course, K. And so when you deal with K, you just deal with 11. And if y'all seen Black Panther, I'm not going to spoiler alert, but if you've seen Black Panther, it was about the treaties. Okay? She said, I offer an olive branch. And she did something. I ain't gonna let y'all have to watch it yourselves. I'm not propagating the movie. It's just everything is about us.
Right.
It's not that they don't know who we are. It's not they don't know that we're returning. It has to be. It's not something that is you're going to have those who's going to be with you and those who's going to be against you. No matter what. That's always like that in all spirits.
Right.
And that's just something that we have to deal with. And the first thing we got to deal with, again, is self.
It's I self-law.
And, and so I got even deeper than that. I said, okay, let me look at the Canaanites. So you know who the fourth son of Canaan was, right?
The first
Anybody
one?
know? The fourth son of Canaan. The fourth son of Canaan.
No. Who is it?
Peace, brother. Islam, Amir. His name was Amor.
Amor. That means love.
The fourth. Yeah, but yes, that's Amor. That's right. And that's what they say was the Amorite. And that was, who came from that was Hammurabi. Ham, of course. And that's Bay. If we break down his attributes, we break down he's a Hammurabi. He's a Bay. And these are the ones that were studying. If you study and understand, those are the ones who had the feathers on. Those are the ancient Assyrians. Those are the Phoenicians.
Right.
They're going right back to Canaan. Going back to, Amor. Right. So when you look at it, it's all symbolism. It means that, it's something that, if you look at birth as B-E-R-T-H, birth is what? Birth, if you look at it, you see allocated Amor.
Right. Islam.
So you can't have birth or be born unless you are Amor. There's a science to this. There's a deeper knowledge of this.
You're born on the square, 33 degrees standing. Yeah. You're 33 vertebrae.
And you're born on that square, and that's why the fourth son of Canaan is Amor. It's a lot of hidden information. It's a lot of knowledge that a lot of people got to get to accordance of getting to the frequency and understanding what's going on. This corona thing is a crown. This is something that is they know what it is. It's not. something that is a secret anymore.
Well,
do I sound clear?
Clear. But there is
Okay.
it is, though. That's for sure. But it's signs and symbols, like you were saying. And the thing is signs and symbols. Like the Prophets 101. That was a sign and a symbol of Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid. But these signs and symbols are only recognized by the 5%ers, if you will, right? Those who got the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the eyes to see and the ears to hear. You got your 10% who knows who knows all these principles, but they're using it against the people, and then you got your 85% of the people, which are dumb, deaf, and blind, who don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear. Those
and
people,
no matter how the numbers are, yeah, they're gonna stay the same.
Well, yeah, well, those people, well, they have been, it's by design, by the 10% have dumbed them down by design through animal husbandry, right? Miseducation, misinformation. And so the signs and symbols go over their heads. They don't even recognize it. Just the symbol of the K sideways, symbolizing the connection of your two temples in the nostrils. That's deep. That went over my head. You taught me that. You see, so these are our ancient, this is Moorish science, really, is what it is. Moorish science is all knowledge. Law is Moorish science.
And you said that's Nas. You said that's Nas came out of 1111 as well. So if you know that's Nas, that's also what you call nose.
Yeah.
And that's what you call Gnostic.
Gnostic, yeah. Which is
on
knowing.
The nose.
Gnostic knows, but then it also represents the Gnosticism pertains to knowing, not based in faith and belief, but in knowing. And knowing what? Knowing self and knowing your relation to the cosmos, because we're all connected. We represent the stars, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. One of the Hermetic principles. Which is which one? I don't remember. 7 Hermetic principles, and I don't remember which one is as above, so below. But it's in there. Real quick, let me switch over because I pulled it up for further illustration and further reference points for those at home and anyone else who's interested in this topic. It's very important to understand Article 102 of the Charter. It states, every treaty and every international agreement. What is a constitution? An international agreement. The Constitution is an international document. Every treaty and every international agreement entered into, and by the way, that agreement is amongst the nationals of the state. And then it's signed and deposited. Every treaty and every international agreement entered into by any member of the United Nations after the present charter comes into force shall as soon as possible be registered with the Secretariat and published by it. Registered means deposited. Published means promulgation. What are they what do they mean by published by it or promulgated? What do they mean by that? Well, there's 193 member states. Either you choose to send in every last one of them a letter of dealing with the establishment of your state, i.e., a declaration of statehood or declaration of independence, or you register it with the Secretariat, and then the Secretariat will publish it to all those 193 states or promulgate it on your behalf. Okay. However, 2, no party to any such treaty or international agreement which has not been registered in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 1 of this article may invoke the treaty or agreement before any organ of the United Nations. In other words, if you don't do what paragraph 1 says, you may not invoke any treaty or agreement before any organ of the United Nations, including who? What is another organ of the United Nations? The International Court of Justice. These are instructions. Right there, clear as day. Article 102, miscellaneous provisions. It's always in the provisions. What is another provision? The provicio, right here. Chapter, was that 19? What does Article 110 says? Where did it go? The present charter shall be ratified. Provisions. Instructions. Provicio. The present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. Okay. Let me go back to where I was. Let's stay here and let's come here. Let's say the Montevideo Convention. The present convention shall be open for the adherence and accession of the states which are not signatories. That's not what I'm looking for. The deposit there is, okay, so right here. The present convention will enter into force between the high contracting parties in the order in which they deposit their respective ratifications, but that ain't it. Article 13 is really it. The present convention shall be ratified by the high contracting parties in conformity with their respective constitutional processes or procedures. Why do they all say the same thing? The present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. Where did they get that from? The convention shall be ratified. The ratification shall be exchanged at Tangier with as little delay as possible. Ratification, Act of Algeciras, Treaty of Madrid. If I haven't made myself clear, let's make it even clearer. Act of Algeciras, general provisions. There's always in the general provisions, chapter 7, with a view to harmonizing this list. It's not that one. The present general act shall be ratified according to the constitutional laws of each state. The ratification shall be deposited at Madrid as soon as practicable and at the latest by December 31st, 1906. Instructions. Similar instructions. Back to the instructions by the charter. The present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. So the Act of Algeciras and the Treaty of Madrid come long before, way before the United Nations Charter. Madrid is 1880. Act of Algeciras is 1906. Charter, 1945. So where in the world did they get this language from? Moroccan law. Our treaties. Our treaties is the foundation of international law. This is why the Pope don't matter. This is why the Queen don't matter. This is why the United States don't matter. This is why Jacob, Jews, whatever, don't matter. Because our laws is supreme to any of these seats or personalities, whether it be the seat of the Pope, keeping in mind that the original popes are the Moors, the Holy Roman Empire are Moors, and Pope Francis knows that. The Black nobility of Europe, including the Queen of England, are Moors. Queen Charlotte of Mecklenburg was a Moor. They know this, man. And so right here, this Paragraph 1 of Article 110 that I have highlighted, where did that language come from? The present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes, procedures, whatever, semantics, a couple of little words here and there that changes, but it's the same concept. It's the same exact language. The ratification shall be deposited with the government of the United States of America. This was back in 1945. That's no longer the case. Because remember, the United Nations is in the United States. Or should I say in Morocco, in the United States of America, or the United States is in Morocco, which shall notify all the signatory states of each deposit. See, so they'll notify all the signatory states of each deposit, as well as the Secretary General of the organization when he has been appointed. See, this is back in 1945. He wasn't even appointed yet. That's why it says in the other one, I just read it in the other one. It said something about, it gave the impression, let's go back to it. The general provisions, where is it? Miscellaneous, I'm sorry, miscellaneous provisions. You see in the miscellaneous provision, it says, every treaty and every international agreement entered into by any member of the United Nations after the present charter comes into force. And after the present charter comes into force, which means it wasn't in full force yet. This is the same language from when it first started in 1945. Right? That's the reason why it's saying that it needs to be deposited with the United States. Let's go back. 110, finish up 110. So it says the present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. The ratification shall be deposited. It's no longer with the government of the United States, it's now with the Secretariat of the United Nations. That's where you're saying your ratified constitution or any other international agreement, but your accession documents, they go to a different department in the United Nations, which shall notify all the signatory states of each deposit, as well as the Secretary General of the organization when he has been appointed. Excuse me. Another reason why it goes to the United States of America, because the Secretary General had not yet been appointed. 1945, when the charter first came into full force, the present charter shall come into force upon the deposit of ratifications by the Republic of China, France, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, Russia, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America, and by a majority of the other signatory states. A protocol of the ratifications deposited shall thereupon be drawn by the government of the United States of America, which shall communicate copies thereof to all the signatory states. That responsibility no longer falls on the United States of America. It's now the Secretary General or the Secretariat of the United Nations who does that, or his office at least. The state signatory to the present charter, which ratify it after it has come into force, will become original members of the United Nations on the date of the deposit of their respective ratifications. It's always the date of the deposit of their ratified or respective ratifications. Ratification. The present charter shall be ratified. The ratification shall be deposited. This is the language we need to pick up. We need to start working, talking with. The N word needs to be replaced with ratification. The B word needs to be replaced with depository or deposit. The H word should be replaced with.
Like right now, it's not a joke about it, but this is a good place. And what's the name of it again?
Somebody put yourself on mute, please. We must change our language. It's the point. Where is 11? 111. This is weird how this thing is set up. Where is 111? But anyway, I yield the floor. I think I made my point clear about the instructions here with the United Nations. Oh, there it is, 111. This is the more quick. The present charter, of which Chinese, French, Russian, English, and Spanish texts are equally authentic, shall remain deposited in the archives of the government of the United States of America. Duly certified copies thereof shall be transmitted by that government to the government of the other signatory states. That's 111. But again, it's no longer with the United States government. It's now with the Secretary of the United Nations. Islam, I yield the floor.
Okay. I want to just mention that the one brother from AMPAG had spoken. He said that he don't believe that the Europeans are going to go because they've got their sports and they've got all their businesses here and whatnot. They have commerce going on here, and I agree with that. You know, that's not going to be a problem. So I just wanted to make comment with that. And your demonstration on ratification and deposit and promulgation of the constitutions in order to form a state and be recognized is well taken and understood. Good demonstration. Question: have any of your nationals been stopped by the police and asked for driver's license and whatnot, or attempted to be told?
That was dating, and I know this is not what you meant, but
hello?
It's not a matter of us teaching
What's
from the United Nations. What they're supposed to do is their
Islam. Is someone talking or is that a background noise?
That sounds like background. And I think that Abdul stepped away from the mic. Maybe.
Okay. But yeah, what was your question again? Sorry, that threw me off.
My question was, has any of your nationals in AMPAG been stopped by the police and asked for identification and threatened with towing their vehicle or going to jail for not having probably the proper identification or tags or anything of that nature?
Islam. I think the Wazir might be best to answer that, but to my knowledge, I don't know of anyone of AMPAG at least. But the Wazir might know.
Okay. Do any of you guys have national tags on your vehicle?
To my knowledge, not yet. But again, that's something Wazir would probably be better to answer.
Okay.
But yeah, something we definitely need though.
Like I said, it sounds like he stepped away. So we'll wait, I guess, for him, unless he's muted. Somebody's controlling the screen. I see the mouse moving.
Tacit meaning, express meaning that means verbally, by way of a letter, let us and the world know that we recognize our existence, or tacit would be whereas the United States, for example,
Islam Wazir, I believe that's your background playing, either on your phone or the computer, if you can hear me.
Any other nation, we have the right to reject our state. Anytime you put something new on a record,
yeah,
I think that background noise. That background noise might be the brother talking, but I don't think he knows he's kind of muted in the background.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Who and under what ground?
Yeah, I think he started talking and something happened to his sound system. So he's talking right now, and he's very muted, and we can only hear each other for some reason.
And there was no rejection. So
it's gonna be one of those situations where he said, "Why nobody told me that you couldn't hear, or I couldn't hear you?" Well,
existence of the state is independent of recognition by the other states must I go on. Go ahead, Brother Akeem. Go ahead, Brother Akeem. You got your hands up, right?
Brother Hakeem can't hear you. Can you hear him, Brother Hakeem? He's telling you, go ahead.
Islam. Can you hear me?
When you're off mute, I can hear you for nothing.
Can you hear me, Wazir?
He said he couldn't hear.
That's me.
He probably muted.
Okay, let me try to call him on the phone.
I can't hear you, brother.
Yeah,
Can
he,
anyone
Oh,
else say
he doesn't
yeah,
know.
you
We can't hear
sound
him.
super far away. I don't know if you
Can
switched to a
anyone hear me?
different device, but you sound really far away, and we didn't hear a thing you said for like the past 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Are you all there?
So he still can't hear us. You want to give him a call?
That's one,
Yeah,
that's two. Can
I'll
anyone
do
hear me?
that.
Send him a text. Yeah. I wonder what happened.
Islam. He said he'll
Can
be back.
you all hear me now?
Okay, yeah, now it's better.
Yes.
Yeah, you good now.
Oh my gracious, man! I know what it was. My phone picked up my earbud, and my earbud is in the case. I don't know why.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why you were
Yeah,
muted.
yeah, and I'm like, something is not right because oh my goodness gracious, oh my God, I done said so much.
Yeah, you said a
Oh,
lot.
Lord. This sucks. Shoot, where? Oh my God, come on, phone, why you had to do that? That was
The
the
good brother had
wrong
a
time for my.
The good brother had a
Somebody had a
question
question?
for you. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Damn.
Yeah. This is Amir. I had a question because
Okay,
I was
I'm in.
wondering if you guys had an issue with the police stopping you because you guys had Moorish tags on your vehicle, and what type of information were you guys carrying to separate yourself?
Well, we don't have a tag at the moment, and
Oh, you don't?
we're still no, we don't, and we're actually finally finalizing all of our paperwork and our documents, nationality paperwork, part of which includes your state ID, obviously.
Mhm.
The Circle 7 of facts that comes
Yeah.
with your Constitution and the Declaration, that whole package, as well as a diplomatic bag tag for the officials and their diplomatic card for the officials. But outside of those two documents for the officials, everyone else received basically the same thing. And we're probably a week out from issuing it out to all the nationals.
Okay.
But no tag at this moment, not yet.
Week?
Probably,
You said within
yeah,
a week?
I think within the next week, 2 at the most. Yeah.
Man, I need to fill out that application and RDP my joint.
Who is this speaking?
This is Jazz Walker. This is
Jazz,
Brother Jazz.
but how you doing, brother? How you doing?
I'm all right.
I'm gonna get back.
I need
I'll
the
get with you, man.
RDP.
Well, we're slowing down on accepting new nationals. But you have been quite pushy from
I
a good
know that.
perspective.
I apologize, man. I can't
No,
help myself. I'm sorry.
It's from a good perspective, not pushy from an annoying. Not.
Yeah.
No.
It's always going to be a positive. It's always going to be a positive push, definitely.
Well, yes, exactly, and I appreciate it. It's just really you letting me know that you're really, really interested and you really want to get down with this, and I appreciate that. So that's what I really meant by that. And so, I have a private conversation with you in regards to that. Okay.
Definitely.
Islam. I was asking you, brother Amir. God, Lee, man, I spent like probably 3 minutes. I was asking you, good brother, did you receive a recognition letter from the United Nations?
Not yet.
Exactly. And neither have us, and neither has AMPAG.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, we're not expecting to receive anything from them.
That's the point that I was making this whole time, and I was on this earbud. That's why you seen I was going through some of these articles. Because I was okay. Let me backtrack because it's important. Because you mentioned the term recognition from the United Nations, and I know that's not what you meant by it, but I wanted to clarify it for everyone on the line or anyone who might be watching that's new or whatever. Can everyone still hear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Goodness gracious, I can't believe this happened. This is the second time.
Did you say I mentioned being recognized by the?
Yeah, when you were we were talking about that was right before everything went mute on me. You mentioned something about we were talking about the okay, when you were giving me kudos for the demonstration on the ratification, depository, and promulgation.
Okay.
You mentioned in that discussion, you mentioned something about when we sent off the documents to the United Nations for recognition or something to that effect, but I know that's not what you meant.
No, it's not what I meant. You're right.
Yeah, I know that's not what you meant.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. And so for everyone else who may not recognize that, I wanted to clarify that for them. So it says that the recognition of a state merely signifies that the state which recognizes it accepts the personality of the other with all the rights and duties determined by international law. Recognition is unconditional and irrevocable. So what this is really saying is what we're doing and what we have done and what we will continue to do, which is recognize each other as a state. So AMPAG, U.S.A. has recognized AMPAG and U.S.A. has recognized AMPAG, and so on and so forth. And then now we're going to recognize Maru will recognize us, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. We recognize our own states. We're not seeking recognition from anyone else.
Right.
Okay. And according to Article 6, that's basically exactly what it's saying. Then right here, I also went over Article 7, where it says the recognition of a state may be express or tacit. So it will be expressed from the perspective of them sending you some sort of a correspondence, a letter, or even verbal, saying that they recognize your state, right? Or tacit would be the case, whereas currently Maru, U.S.A., and AMPAG are going through a 365-day probation period, if you will. That's for a lack of a better term. But when you put something on the record, you must give the other parties the time to reject it, or and if they don't reject it, then it becomes tacit acquiescence. You see,
right.
And so currently, AMPAC has completed their 365-day period. So right now, the United States and any other power around the country, around the world, have recognized AMPAC by tacit acquiescence, not expressed, because no one sent them a letter, right, saying that we recognize you except for us. But tacit nonetheless from the perspective of the United States, China, or any other power in any other country, by not directly recognizing us, they recognized us by tacit acquiescence. So that's a form of recognition in it of itself, if you wanted to go in that direction. But then over here, this is where I realized that no one could hear me. Can anyone still hear me? I'm paranoid about this. Can y'all still hear me good?
Good. Yeah,
Okay.
You're good.
I'm paranoid. Okay, so the political existence of the state is independent of recognition by the other states. Period. So more's got to get out of their heads. Have you been recognized by such and recognized by such and such? The United Nations can't even recognize us because they themselves aren't a state. They're an international organization that's playing a referee role or a middleman role for whenever there's any states, any disputes amongst nations or states or between nations and states. They are there to keep the peace or assist in keeping the peace through legislation. And if need be, by use of force, i.e. the peacekeepers.
They're like the commissioner of baseball or the commissioner of football. to just
Right.
keep the peace between the teams and organize
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
But on a much, much higher level,
Yes, you're
right?
absolutely
There's no higher level than international relations and operations. From international operations and relations is where you get your commissioner. What's his name? Sylvan from the NBA. Guess whose jurisdiction Jacob is under?
Morocco. Morocco.
Morocco. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Every team, every stadium must pay taxes.
Absolutely.
Every building in Morocco must pay taxes. Habu properties must pay taxes. The Qadi must be at every closing to satisfy himself of the validity of the deed and to collect 2% taxes for every sale. We're multi-billionaires 10 times over on a reoccurring basis. You want to talk about, excuse me, you want to talk about residual income? You want to talk about royalties? Oh, we got it all. This is one of the other reasons why the world, a lot of the peoples around planet Earth, you know, they have this love-hate relationship with us. They hate us too now. They jealous of us. We are the holders and the heirs of the world's greatest estate. Hands down. And the only way that we can reclaim it is through a proper claim. By way of your Moroccan state governments, utilizing international law. And what is international law? Somebody tell me, please. Y'all got to know by now. Messing with me.
Moroccan treaties.
Moroccan treaties, Moroccan laws.
Mm-hmm.
That's internet. That's the foundation to it. I just proved to you where they got the general provisos from, the general instructions. In conformity or in accordance with the constitutional processes of your government or procedures. One said procedures, the other one said process, but it's still dealing with it still deals with the ratification being in accordance with your constitution. Meaning that your constitution has to be in accordance with just cogents in the preemptory norms of international law, which is human rights, in an effort to maintain peace and security around planet Earth. Now, you backtracked, but you mentioned it. And I think I know why you backtracked. But I'm gonna make that point clear on your behalf anyway. When you mentioned that the United States does not adhere to treaties or don't respect treaties, right? Okay. The question is, when did they have to respect a Moroccan government?
When there was one that was on the land, but there hasn't been one over 200 years.
Exactly. Not for 200 years. They have not had to adhere to Moroccan governments. However, they do adhere to the treaties as if they are Morocco.
You're right. Because they took the laws out of the Act of Algeciras and enact them for themselves. You know, when they took over.
Against us.
Yes, absolutely. When they took over the banks, the police, they took over the taxations, they took over public works, public services.
Correct.
Things that we were supposed to be doing.
They took over the monopoly of the kif, the opium, and the tobacco.
Yes.
They issued permits for weapons.
Exactly.
Or should I say guns, arms.
Exactly.
So So clearly, they definitely respect the treaties because they definitely enforcing it upon our. You know what? You know.
Yes.
Now, here's another example. Well, what about the Indians? They didn't respect none of the treaties with the Indians. Okay, let's talk about that. Those treaties were never ratified, deposited, and promulgated. That's number one. Why was it never ratified, deposited, and promulgated? Because it's not dealing with international law. It's just an internal agreement between you and some ipso Moorish subjects or citizens. Because a tribe is not a state. A tribe is a tribe. And under these treaties, guess who's the dominant power in these treaties with the Indians? The United States.
United States, yeah.
Whereas they fall under the jurisdiction of the United States and they are allowed a certain portion of the land to operate as if it's as a reservation. Now, if they had engaged in a real treaty with the Indians, as so-called Indians, as with the Indians, so-called Indians, having an actual state, it would have had to been ratified, deposited, and promulgated with the United Nations. Both parties should know that as a matter of fact, if you're dealing with a state.
Yeah.
In that case, I could assure you they'll adhere to it. Here's another example. Pacta sunt servanta, right? Agreements must be kept. Okay. So what year was it? 2016, 17, under Trump administration, Iran took the United States to court.
Yeah.
Remember? And they won. They were arguing about the United States trying to back out of what? A treaty?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't respect treaties, right? And this is how much they don't respect treaties. So they were trying to back out of a treaty with Iran. Iran took them to the ICJ. The ICJ found the United States guilty and had to pay out $150 billion, which they did. That's how much they don't respect treaties or international law, that they paid out $150 billion. Here's another example. Remember all the human rights violations against Vietnam and Korea and all these wars?
Yes.
Okay. What do Black people complain about? The Koreans, the Vietnamese, they got reparations.
Yeah. The
etc.
Japanese got reparations.
Exactly. International law disputes. The United States had to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they not pay Black people reparations?
They have no state.
There you go.
They have no state. And they keep running around here talking about Black Lives Matter or Black is, it's just ridiculous. And they do not understand that concept. That you have, when reparations is to repair a state, not individuals.
Right.
And Black people don't have a state. And they're too hard-headed, man. Like the prophet said, man, Negroes are too hard-headed, stubborn and hard-headed. They want to argue and they don't know the facts. They don't know any of these treaties that we're talking about. They don't know anything about Moroccans or who they are. Morocco's over there in Africa. This ain't Morocco, man. I was talking to a Nigerian in the store a couple of days ago, and I was telling him that this is Morocco, and he knew it. He said, "Oh, this is Morocco." And he said, "I'm one of the first." He asked me, where I was from. I said, "I'm from Morocco, right here." He said, "You were the first that ever said that to him since he got here, and he's been here 8 years."
Wow.
Yeah, just the fact is, Black people don't know this, and so therefore they keep themselves in the submissive position.
Right.
They are more subjects.
That's why the good brother said that Moors are delaying their own justice. We are delaying our own.
Yes, we are.
In a major way. And so if the United States acquiesced to the ICJ and paid out all these reparations and all this money, what do you think they're gonna do when we beat them in the ICJ? You really think that they're gonna just be it's over with after that?
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. All you got to do is look at the history. That's why we're saying that you got to study the case between France and the United States, United States and Germany. See, the United States and Germany and Mexico and Honduras deals with
the United States losing in those court battles in ICJ.
But those three cases specifically deals with consular access and notification, which we'll be going over. We'll be dealing with that with Brother Jay on a deeper level, because that it's, see what it is. It's the short version of it. There's got to be an agreement available for every state, between all the different states. So, for example, AMPAG would need to have an agreement with, let's say, the United States based on consular notification access. Know how to deal with one another should our national end up under arrest under their jurisdiction, and vice versa. So with the case with France, there were brothers. I forgot LeBlanca. I forgot the name of these people. Man, I don't forgot. Well, they were executed by the United States.
Yeah.
And they took them to the ICJ. Right? Germany did. And basically the case proved that there was no agreement in place between the two states that deals with that matter. Similar to Brittany Grinder, who is in jail in Russia, right? If they had an agreement, she would be home. But they didn't have an agreement to lay out the rules of engagement on how you deal with each other's national. You see, and this is where those three cases come into play, and this is where consular relation. Consular notification and access comes into play based on the conventional consular relations. But you know, I said that for a reason. I lost my train of thought, but to go back to what you were saying, the people don't know this because our people have blocked us from knowing this.
Right.
The people were supposed to have known about the act of adversarial. The people were supposed to have known specifically Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid, the one that they were trying to strike from the record.
Right.
Oh, you got to remove it from the record or from the treaty. Which, by the way, the good brother asked me a question about it being removed from the treaty.
I'm getting a little sleepy. I'm into the information I'm receiving. Yeah.
Everyone mute your mics, please, if you ain't speaking. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? The other reason why the king and the United States could not strike the nationality aspect from the record is because of what?
It was because there was it was a convention that had more people a part of that treaty who didn't agree with it.
Okay, that's one good point. But the point that I was making,
okay,
is there are the United States of America and Morocco the Kingdom are signatory powers, members of the United Nations Charter. And based on the United Nations Charter and international law in general, all agreements must be in line with the preemptory norms of law, and there can be no derogations from it. That's just cogents. Human rights. So to strike or take away the nationality of a people for good will be a violation of what? Human rights, which would be what type of charge? Genocide.
Yeah.
Not only genocide, but also crimes against humanity. You can't take away a people's nationality. What does the Rights of Indigenous People Article 6 says? That all indigenous peoples have a right to what? nationality. That's the other reason that I forgot to explain to the good brother as to why that had no judicial standing. Because it goes against the preemptory norms of international law, which is just cogence, human rights. Can't take away people's nationality. Like, come on. That's a hell of a violation. So that's the other reason why it didn't fly. And so,
excuse me. That was exactly what they did with the 14th Amendment and the what was that? The 1790. Can't remember what it was called. But anyway, that's what they did. Is excuse me.
You're talking about the Nationalization Act.
Yes, sir. Naturalization Act. Yes, I am. When they but more so the 14th Amendment, when they took away, they made the more subjects U.S. citizens. That was against the international law also. And because of that, they couldn't, more subjects couldn't go to a Moroccan consular court during the time when that was enacted. You know, George Washington was supposed to free all more subjects that came to him looking for their, I guess it was their release or their freedom, because he knew that they were not under the United States of America's jurisdiction, and they had a treaty with the Sultan that would free them from their bondage. But yet, just like the act when the Moors in, I think that's South Carolina, the Sundry Moors.
Sundry Free Moors?
Yes, when the Sundry Free Moors, they had an agreement with South Carolina that not to be treated as Negroes or Blacks, because they are of under the jurisdiction of the
Sultan
of Morocco. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So that at the same time, George Washington knew this, but yet he did not honor his treaty with the Sultan, you know, and many Moors were changed their nationality from being a whatever is a Cherokee or whatever. They weren't British, they weren't Spanish, they weren't, you know, these other nations that came over here and tried to steal the land or overrule the land. But so George Washington knew, and he did not follow through. And so he again, well, not again, but what I'm saying is he did not honor up to the treaties and the agreements of the treaties. So my point was that he had an opportunity to do right by the Moors who came looking for their freedoms, and he sent them back into slavery.
Right, specifically, and you mean the United States, not necessarily him.
No, the United States, but what I'm saying is they came to him or the United States, and they did not honor the treaty.
Well, they honored the Sundry Free Moors.
Yes, they did. But I'm talking about those ones that came that they to look for release from their bondage when they came to Washington, D.C. Excuse me, at the time it was Washington.
Okay, yeah, I know what time frame you're talking.
Yeah.
He didn't let them know. Yeah.
No, yeah. He says nothing I can do for you, basically.
Right.
And,
but well, they were on their push to gain extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Yes.
They was on the move. And during that time, guess who was helping? British Moors.
British Moors, yeah.
So the Naturalization Act is of what? 1870. So you see how you're talking about how they were able to pull off the Naturalization Act and basically denationalize us and do all these criminal things to us, right? Because it's criminal and it's fraud. It's quite criminal and it's fraud, right? Okay.
Right.
Now let me show you something. 1870 is when it started to begin, right? The Naturalization Act took place in 1870, right? Who you think and what do you think gave them the right and the authority to do to commit all those criminal acts and fraudulent activities against us?
Their legislation.
Nope.
No.
There was another legislation. Their legislation come after. There's a prior legislation, well, not prior, but it came out in 1880.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was 1780, the first one, Naturalization Act, because they were responding, the Sultan was responding to that in 1880 to what happened before with their.
1870.
Excuse me?
It was 1870.
Okay, that was the first one. There was two, wasn't there?
Well, you had the Naturalization Act and then you had the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
That comes after.
Hold on. Go ahead, sir.
So my point that I'm making is that this document, the Treaty of Madrid, the right of protection in Morocco, is what gave the United States that type of power to do that kind of stuff. Specifically what? Article 2. Article 15, paragraph 2. What does paragraph 2 say? I'm going to say it again. Foreign naturalization heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco according to the rules established by the laws of each country, United States of America, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restrictions. That's what the treaty says. That ain't what I said. I didn't write that. But Article 15, though, paragraph 1, which came before paragraph 2, gave you an out. Right or wrong, any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country must choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire. If you don't do that, all the laws of the country shall continue against you in all its effects without any restrictions. So now you have all the denationalization efforts taking place, all the cheating and hypothecation taking place, because we failed to go back to Morocco and stop them from doing any of it. So it was our fault. Was it directly our fault? No. Because we had sellout Moors that assisted the colonizers or the Albayans. The sellout Moors are Albayans. Nationality Act of 1790. I don't think that has to do with, I'm not sure about this. What is the Nationality Act of 1790? Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
I was saying that Nationality Act was 10 years before, and that's why I think that the Sultan came up with the 1880 Act of Algeciras.
No. It was in response to the Naturalization Act of 1870. How can I prove that? Okay. What does it say right here?
Okay.
Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country.
Okay.
That was in response to the Naturalization Act.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Mm-hmm. Because we were naturalized, we were like, okay, all right, so y'all want to naturalize some people. Y'all want to naturalize folks, huh? Okay, here's one for you. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country shall choose between the entire submission of the laws of the empire. And if you don't, all the laws of the United States or any other country will take its course upon you without any effect. I mean, that's just what it says. I mean, and that's how, and they're acting upon it because they're putting their legislation and their laws on us,
yeah,
without any counterpunch. So they're in the boxing ring by themselves. We ain't in there boxing with them. We got our feet up, snoozing, marching and praying. We shall overcome. Amazing grace. Turning the other cheek. The white man is the devil. No justice, no peace. Black lives matter. Praying and crying and dying. Everything but enacting legislation through a competent Moorish state. Any and everything but that, gang banging.
Yeah.
Right? The whole nine, pimping, selling drugs, any and everything but enacting laws and legislation to govern the colonizers. Any and everything but choosing between the entire submission of the laws of the empire. Again, it's by design. It's through animal husbandry. It's through, indoctrination. It's through miseducation. But the problem is that our own have assisted them in those efforts. They couldn't pull that off by themselves.
Well, like you said earlier, man, just because they look like you don't mean they part of your family. And the brutish Moors, or what they call the Moors from England, Great Britain, and Spain, and so on and so forth, came over here to make their stake, just like the Albions did. They wanted to join their friends and make their stake and claim here in Morocco. So yeah, they weren't trying to help the native Moroccans at all. No. They were trying to, they used them as slaves, because they talk about, well, there were black slave owners. They didn't say that they were from Great Britain or from Spain or from somewhere else that came over here to do the same thing that the Albion people did when they were able to, who could afford to buy the land. Yeah, they were coming over here and having slaves too. Yeah, but they were doing what all the other so-called Europeans were doing that could afford it. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. It's the Moors who taught them these principles anyway. I mean,
yes.
And they were like I spoke of earlier or prior. That's what you would call these white folks, so-called white folks. To the brutish Moors, they would be what you would call a Mameluke or a soldier slave, which is not limited to actual, like, because you say soldier slave doesn't necessarily mean that it's limited to just war, like, call to arms type of war. There's other forms of war. Legislation is war. So Mamelukes can also serve the purpose of administration. It's in the definition. Look it up. You want me to look it up again? I done pulled it up several times. Why not? Let me pull it up again. Why not? Mamelukes. You even learn how to spell it. You see how it's already highlighted? Mamluk, M-A-M-L-U-K. Oh, how did that happen? Come on now. Mameluke. If you just go with the first definition instead of me searching through, or the first, this is kind of long. There's a short version of it. I think right here. Mamluk is a term most commonly referring to non-Arab, ethnically diverse slave soldiers and freed slaves who were assigned military and administrative duties, serving the ruling Arab dynasties in the Muslim world. There's a lot of coded language in there. You obviously got to discern it. So if it says Mamluk is a term most commonly referring to non-Arab, ethnically diverse slave soldiers, they're really talking about the white man. And freed slaves who were the slaves during this time. Yeah. The white man. Who were assigned military and administrative duties, serving the ruling Arab dynasties in the Muslim world. What's the Muslim world? The Moorish world. And that's what you see. That's what you see in Queen Elizabeth. That's what you see in the Pope. That's what you see in Biden. They're Mamluks. Don't get me wrong, Jacob is involved in the higher levels of this. But I can assure you that behind Jacob, you got a lot of these Moors. I know you've seen John Wick 3. Keanu Reeves didn't go to Jacob to get that contract off his head, did he? Who he went to? The Moor. In Morocco, had to cross the burning sand to get to Casablanca, where the Moor was at in a tent with a hookah, chilling with his turban on. He had to cut his own ring finger for the Moor to take the contract off his head back in the United States and sent him back to the United States as a free man. Django, Stephen, Samuel L. Jackson, he's the one who was asking questions. Who is this on this nag? They laughed it off for a little bit, then he got serious. Quick, I said, now what slave talked to his slave master like that? Come on. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. What slave talked to his slave master like that, questioning him? With a voice of authority at that. It's our own behind the scenes, man. And not even our own, but those who look like us. Let's put it that way. Those who look like us, they've been trying to get at this land for the longest. And it has come in various different forms, using different types of people behind the scenes, pulling the strings like a boss would. You don't even know who it is. You think the Rothschilds are big like that? No, sir. But don't get me wrong, Jacob got a big hand in the behind the scenes activities. Jacob is the Ashkenazis out of Russia, southern Russia, by the Caucasus. Do the history on them. Ashkenazis. And they all know who we are. The problem is that you can say Jew, but that's a religion. But then you could also say Muslim, that's a religion. You could also say Christian or Catholic, the Holy Roman Empire or Moors. These are religions, though. The question isn't what's your religion. The question isn't what's your divine creed. What is the question, y'all? The question is, what is your nationality? Can you all still hear me? I'm paranoid.
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you.
What is your nationality? Go ahead, brother. You're gonna say something? The question is, what's your nationality? Not what is your divine creed. So when they say that the Muslims, the Jews, and the Moors, and the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians, you couldn't tell them apart in Andalusia, what does that tell you? We're all that. That's why here at AMPAG, and I'm sure in other states, there's no restrictions on your religious belief. Mm-mm. Everyone has the right to self-determination, and Moor is not a religious word, and the fez is not a religious headdress. Moor is a people, and the headdress is a cultural. It's a cultural head. The fez is a headdress of cultural identity. Let's put it that way. Of a people, an ancient people that don't go back hundreds of years. Millennia. What is a millennia? 1,000 years. Millennius with a plural plus. I remind y'all of paragraph sentence 1 of the Circle 7 Quran, in which it states, time never was when man was not. So millennia might be too short of a term or too short of a time frame. Millions of years. However long the earth been around, however long life been around, time immemorial. We've been governing that long. So when we talk about going back to the ancient, to the minds of our ancient foremothers and forefathers, it's a matter of going back into governance. It's a matter of enacting legislation. We are the first writers. We are the first scribes. In the hall, what do you call it? The Hall of Osiris, I believe is what it's called, in which Osiris sits on the bench as the judge, right? The concept from which they got, or we've got, courts. Osiris Osiris, he's the judge. You've got the jury members. You've got Ma'at, which is the weighing of the feather, the heart against the feather. You got Anubis, which is I forgot what type of animal it is, but if your heart outweighs the feather, that means that you have led a unrighteous life, which means you have went against many of the principles of Ma'at, because you've got to recite the principles of Ma'at, the 42 negative confessions. I have not stolen, I have not fornicated, so on and so forth, right? Well, in the midst of all that, you got Tahuti. They call him Hermes Trismegistus in Greece. Also Thoth, Thoth. In that court session, he is the scribe, writing down everything that takes place. I say all that to say that we are the original writers. We have carved writings on walls and stones and all over the place. A lot of which was legislation, history, etc. And we've lost our way. We can't read that stuff no more. One day we'll come back to the knowledge. But first, we got to come back to the knowledge of international law and statehood. First, we got to come back to the knowledge of ourselves, actually, before we could even come into international law and statehood, before we can even get back to being able to read these walls and these several different tablets and scripts and manuscripts, etc. None of which was written by nobody else but us, the high priests of Anu, the holders of the Egyptian mysteries. Those who have always reigned in the order. Those who have always uplifted fallen humanity. That's our job. That's what the prophet came to remind us of. That's why he kept preaching love instead of hate. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You cannot uplift fallen humanity without operating in the spirit of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The whole idea of the More Science Temple of America is to uplift fallen humanity. Period. That's what the prophet came to remind us of. He didn't invent the fez or the term more or anything like that, the flag, none of that. He serves as a reminder for those who are committing sin. We were being delivered from the wrath of Allah because of our sins. What sins? Not recognizing self, or should I say, not recognizing who your foremothers and forefathers are, therefore recognizing self. Self. I, self, law, am master. That's the sin. So when they say that you were born in sin, oh yes, we are born in sin because we are born into the mindset of Negro, blacks, and coloreds. That's sin. That's blasphemy, actually. And they wonder why God won't give us a break. Because honor thy foremothers and forefathers in the days of the land, y'all know the verse, that has been given thee shall belong. So honor thy fathers and mothers in the days of your days of your life shall belong on the land that I have given thee.
Honor thy mothers and thy fathers, that thy days may be long upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee.
Excellent. That's the sin, because we are not honoring our foremothers and forefathers. We're going against that exact principle. The prophet came to say, man, y'all got to wake up to this. You must honor your foremothers and forefathers. That's why the first half of the movement was to teach us who we were, to then bring us into international law. You can't operate a Moroccan government if you think that your Negro black's color. It doesn't make any sense. You'd have to come to the knowledge of yourself before you can now start to enact constitutions and establishing governments. Because then by learning who you are, you learn quick who the hell they not. Because if you're this, then they're not. But if you're not, then they are. So they're operating with the power of the Moroccans right now. They're the ones getting all the notoriety. They're the ones getting all the wealth, the Moroccan wealth. This is which is also the British Moors. They want access, the whole world want access to our estate. They're doing whatever it takes to get to it. To include miseducating us, indoctrinating us, turning us into homosexuals and transgendered males and such. Any and everything to maintain extraterritorial jurisdiction so that we can then now maintain access to the vast estate, void of them. And they're so greedy with it. But it's okay. The time has come. Their time is running out. It's the clock of destiny, ticking away. Tick, 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 tick. Every tick is another sweat on their glands. Every tick is another heartbeat. Because they know the time is running low. The clock of destiny is circling right back around to those who are to inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. Thus far, who's been meek? Acquiescing, sleep, not knowing who they are. The Moroccans. The earth, we shall inherit the earth. And we're not too far away from it. These are the days and time. This is a new age in time in which the Moors are really now coming into their own. Your own what? Vine and fig tree. Confessing your own. The prophet said it. We must go under the time has come for all nations to go under their own vine and fig tree and to confess their own. That means then that if we must go under our own vine and fig tree and confess our own, who else got to do that? The United States of America. Which means what? It means now that the United States of America must be reenacted. The Republic has to come back online. Because until then, you have nothing but dead corpse running around, which is a violation of international law, just cogence. And besides, in addition, the treaty is between Morocco and the United States of America. So if we're going to go back to the treaties and do things diplomatically and operate in harmony, in peace and friendship, under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, then that means then that you must also go back to the United States of America. We all got to choose between the entire submission. We got to choose between the, excuse me, we got to choose between the entire submission of Morocco, and they must choose between the entire submission of the United States of America.
Islam.
Yes, go ahead, brother.
Islam, let me say this. It also states in the Holy Quran that Moors should not amalgamate or marry into the Persian nations of Europe.
Exactly.
So the amalgamation is mixing, becoming one. And we should not do that. It's not in our desire to amalgamate. So we supposed to be under our own vine and fig tree, as you was mentioning. And every tongue must confess his own. So it's time for us to really wake up and realize who we are. And we got to honor our mother and our fathers by what? Enforcing them treaties. Peace.
Well said. Well said. I mean, absolutely well said. I couldn't say it any better. Anyone else got something to say? We'll start wrapping it up. I done rambled long enough, and it was an excellent discussion. But we got to remember that we have to come to the mindset. I'm gonna keep saying it. We got to get out of the young Luke Skywalker mindset and come into the Darth Vader beheading mindset of Luke Skywalker, not meaning from the perspective of violence or belligerence. Don't get me wrong. Meaning from the perspective of the inner power, the inner spirit of the man who recognized his full power and was able to defeat his biggest nemesis. You know, the mindset of Neo jumping inside of Agent Smith. We can accomplish and do wondrous things if we go back to the mindset of our ancient foremothers and forefathers and start really believing in ourselves, believing in what we're doing. And the only way for that to be materialized is through doing what the prophet said to do in the first place. What was that? Study, study, study. And if you think that you have studied enough, you come and you ask me what to study next, I'm gonna tell you to study yourself. We gotta study and read these treaties and understand these treaties. Not just the treaties and international law in and of itself, but also even United States legislation, who's reaffirming our national identity. Native Moors and such, Moroccan subjects, the Moroccan nationality was lost when the Moorish people became protected by another nation. Like they telling you what the problem was and the solution. Right there in the expatriation document. They're telling you what the problem and they're telling you what the solution is. Stating that we have not contemplated this thing seriously. This was in 1906. This was in 1906. 2021 is when somebody started contemplating this thing seriously, finally. And it's just egregious. But everything is in due order. Everything is based in divine timing. And so we got to study these documents, learn about ourselves, study these documents, have the proper concepts and the proper understanding of these documents so that we can have the confidence, the belief in the ultimate power in order to act upon the colonizers as we should with full confidence and not be concerned about anything, especially them being belligerent or basically rejecting our laws. Will they do it in the beginning? Yes. They're operating based on customs and usage, meaning that they're used to us being in the state of acquiescence. So it's not going to be, I mean, you're not going to You're not going to tell your, a belligerent child, you're not going to tell them to wash the dishes one time and it's a done deal. You're going to have to tell your son, your daughter, your belligerent child to wash the dishes 2-3 times and possibly pull out the belt before they start washing those dishes. And God forbid you didn't raise them right, because now as they get older, you're going to keep dealing with the same problem, right? You don't keep them in check, they're going to keep going out or outside the borderline, would they? Same thing here. They may not jump, they may not say how high when we first tell them to jump. But after we come back from the ICJ, if we think back on on the historical events that took place at the ICJ with the United States, when we come back from the ICJ, it's over with. Why, if we're so concerned about them becoming belligerent and using use of force against us, then explain to me why they haven't used it against France, why they didn't use it against Iran, why they didn't use it against everybody else when they lost at the ICJ. They just did what they were supposed to, like good boys and girls. There's no reason to expect no different. Go ahead, good brother.
Yeah, I was just gonna touch on the things that's necessary prior to going to the ICJ, because we already all know what to expect afterward. However, prior to us going, we're gonna have to be organized in all sorts of ways, but primarily having our documents organized, right? And one of the things that me and Sister Nova have been discussing recently in recent meetings is organizing the government's own document management systems, basically. The portal that I set up could assist with that, but until we set up our own servers for the document editing feature, we're still going to be having to use third-party, what do you call it? Either servers or document editors. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But bottom line is, knowing where our files are going to be stored, how we're going to store them, what security levels we're going to have for certain things, all sorts of things that need to be organized in preparation for that, because we don't want to be there and we need to get a document. Nobody knows where to get it, or there's a situation where the person who's supposed to have it doesn't have it and no one else can get it. You know what I mean? So having each of our governments organized when it comes to file management would probably be one of the most important things going into it. Because the last thing we want is to be there and look incompetent.
I agree.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Excellent point. Hence why Nova and Hakeem were linked up together.
Yeah.
To come up with these great ideas and execute them. So I totally agree.
Yeah, that's good.
And
I would have thought of that.
Well, I sure as hell wouldn't have either. But that's why it's a team effort.
Yes.
No one can do one thing. We all have our lanes. We all have our purpose. That's what a team is all about. You know what I mean? And Dennis Rodman, all he did was get the rebounds and bully people around and harass Karl Malone. That was his job. And and so we all just do what we're meant to do. It's a divine movement. Everybody's here divinely for a purpose, for a reason. Everyone that's in position is there for a reason. Right. And all the bad things, or should I say, the uprisings within the governments, or any other form of disruption within the governments, is simply the ancestors preparing us for the ultimate time. The people that you start with is not necessarily who you're going to end with. We're quite fortunate in AMPAG that we got done We finished, you know, we dealt with a situation competently, got it done and over with, and everything thereafter has been smooth sailing. Everybody seems to be in the right place. Everything just seems to be in order with AMPAG. You know, will there be another problem? Possibly, but to me, as far as I'm concerned, there's a 5% chance that would happen tonight. It's a 95% chance that it's not happening. I don't see it, but are the potentials and the possibilities there? Yes. And if it does happen, I'm ready. Oh, I'm ready. Right? I got some stuff that I got to introduce, some procedures, policies and procedures and such. You know, you got to put things on paper, right? Legislation, or it may not be legislation, but it's still, procedure still has holds a vital role within our state as state officials, especially the higher offices, to maintain the order within each respective branch, if you will. You know, is rules of engagement. So, but my point is that I don't foresee too much of any of that happening. I think it already happened. It's been cleaned up, and now we're good to go. The same thing is taking place with AMPAG. I'm already aware of what took place with New Mecca. That's been settled and cleaned up, and you even picked up a new hajib that you were struggling to get. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Right.
Yes.
Islam. And so it's all divine, brother and sisters, mothers and sons. It's all divine. No part of this no part of this movement and the establishment of these states can be taken lightly. Keeping in mind that everyone on the line that's part of the state are living legends.
Yeah.
Like, the world does not even realize what we've done yet. We've already done it. We've already won. We established Moroccan governments working on legislation. When was the last time you've heard of that? Never. In the past 200 plus years. I want to give everyone the confidence to understand that we're doing great things. And we're doing things in conformity with international law. I just proved to you what needs to be done with the documents based on Article 102 of the Charter, United Nations Charter. Right? Is it 102? It was 102, yes. And then 110 and 111 were the other additional provisions.
Right.
Miscellaneous provisions and signature and ratification. Those are the two articles, the two sections, you see? And so we're doing the right things. We're doing something that hasn't been done in a very long time. We're doing the things that the prophet entrusted us to do, which is to do what? Uplift fallen humanity, reigning the order, right? Establishing order back in Morocco. In a view, what does it say? Before we close out, I'll keep going. I need to close out. In a view, hold on, I'm sorry. Act of Algeciras. With a view to harmonizing its legislation. With a view to harmonizing its legislation. If the occasion arises, with the engagements contracted under the present General Act, each of the signatory powers engages to take the necessary steps leading to the enactment of such legislation as may be necessary so far as it is concerned. Meaning that if you have any concerns, you write legislation. But let me go to the preamble real quick, and then I'll close out. His Majesty the Emperor, inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. So you cannot have order, peace, and prosperity if you're having war with your tenants. And recognizing that the attainment thereof can only be effected by means of the introduction of reforms based upon what? The triple principle of the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality, have resolved upon the invitation of His Sharifian Majesty to call together a conference at Algeciras for the purpose of arriving at an understanding upon the said reforms. So he reigned in the order. He called everybody in. This is telling you that his Sharifian Majesty was the authority and the power in this act, convention, multilateral treaty, whatever, as well as examining the means of obtaining the resources necessary for their application, and have appointed as their delegates plenipotentiary the following. And then they went over all the people that are part of the treaty. His Majesty the King of Italy, El Hajj Mohammed S. Safar, right? You got these ills. You got El Hajj Mohammed bin Abdesalam El Mokri. I wonder where the prophet got the ill from, huh? I wonder where Malcolm X got the ill from, huh? El Hajj, okay. Then what else does it say? Now look what it says. Who furnished with full powers, they got full powers, which were found in good and due form. How was it found in good and due form? Because the instructions were followed in conformity with the program upon which His Sharifian Majesty and the powers have agreed, successively discussed and adopted. So all these powers have adopted a declaration relative to the organization of the police, a regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms, an act of a concession for a Moroccan state bank, a declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenues, a regulation concerning the customs of the empire and the repression of fraud and smuggling, a declaration relative to public services and public works, and having decided that these different documents might usefully be coordinated in a single instrument, they have united them in a general act composed of the following articles. And there we go. You go on to the articles. So the United States is a part of this. And we're talking about Punctus Sunt Servanta, right? Agreements must be kept. And this was all done to bring forth the reforms, right? For the, let's see where it says it, for the prosperity, order, and peace in Morocco. And who was entrusted to bring about order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco? Moroccans. That's the preamble. And it was inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco.
And the true principle.
Moors, we have to recognize our power. It's right there in the Act of Algeciras.
Yeah.
Read it.
Right. Excellent.
You got all the power. Islam. So I yield the floor. I close out with that. Does anyone else have anything else to say before I close out?
Yeah, in that same paragraph, they talked about the triple principle of the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty, the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality.
Correct.
Yes, that's all what we're supposed to be formulating and bringing into what's the word I'm looking for? Fruition. Bringing it to fruition.
We got to manifest it.
Yes.
And it was all resolved upon the invitation of His Sharifian Majesty to call together a conference at Algeciras for the purpose of arriving at an understanding upon the said reforms. So he called all these states in, reign in all these states, these Christian powers, right? So they may gain and arrive at an understanding upon this, upon these reforms that's going to take place here in Morocco. Oh, you're going to learn today, His Majesty, the Emperor of Germany, King of Persia, right? German Empire, Joseph Radowitz, his ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to his Catholic Majesty. And you go, so he called in the Catholic Majesty, which is who? The Pope. The Pope showed up to Algeciras on the demand of the Sultan. Who got the power? So now the Sultan has reduced himself to the king, to being king, which left the lane wide open for Moroccan states and the peoples. So if we replace the Sultan, direct replacement, then where does the Pope fall? Right up under us.
Correct.
So let's not be concerned about no friggin' Pope or no Queen of England or anybody else, not the Homeland Security, not the United States, not Moroccan authority. Moroccan law is the ultimate authority, and all these signatory powers, foreign officials, I don't care what seat you're discussing, the king of whatever, the queen of whatever, the emperor of whatever, falls under the authority and the jurisdiction of Moroccan law. Islam?
Islam.
Islam. Well, with that, I close. This was an excellent build. Like usual, I appreciate your presence, Brother Amir, Wazir for New Mecca.
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. And all your nationals, Brother Abdul, the Qazi, and the matriarch. I appreciate you all coming, and I hope you continue to show up. And everyone else who showed up, please continue to show up. Brother Hakeem, I appreciate all your input. Brother Watson Ali, I appreciate yours as well. And with that, I'll close. And may you all have a wonderful night. May the blessings of Allah be upon you all. Islam. Peace and love.
And Islam.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Islam.
I left something in the chat for everyone to check out with me. And when I say with me, I'm doing an investigation, but I left this brother Floyd, HBO.
Oh Lord, Brother Floyd, you on?
I came in about 9:30. You text me the Zoom location at about 6 something, and my eyes opened up at about 9:30, and I got on about 9:38. So it's still a great bill. I enjoyed this to the maximum. To close out, I was just saying that I left something in the chat, a link to a site. Actually, it's a reading of a letter of Louis T. McFadden of 1933. Basically, I'm about looking for where that gold went to, and he mentions a few names. I just left it in there for others to be concerned with me. Cause crimes and criminals. Come again.
My mistake, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's quite all right. With that, I yield the floor. As I say, this has been a great bill. I see Brother Nabi, the Nabi and the Queen made it in as well. And I give praise to Allah. I yield the floor.
I'm glad you showed. I didn't know you were here. But I'm glad you showed up. The presence is always wonderful to have you, brother. I appreciate you being. Is there anyone else that had anything to say before I fully close out? Islam. Well, with that, like I said, peace be on to you all. Assalamu alaikum. May the blessings of Allah be upon you all. You all
Peace
have
and
a
love,
good
more. Peace and love.
Peace.
Peace.